They have desserts.
Oh, they got McDonald's.
It's all the principles of the It has helped significantly. Yes. I do. That's why we have it. Good evening. Thank you for coming to the school board meeting. Today is Monday, January 13th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And this is for the school board organizational meeting. Would everyone please stand and rise and join me in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all board members are present and seated. We are going to start with the oaths of office. So could Nellie Corman and Maya Olson and Heather Starks please join our board attorney, Mr. Holman, at the podium for swearing in. And family members, this is the time you can take photos for this, and we will pause right after if you want to take photos with your loved ones.
This is the quiz part. So if you raise your right hand and repeat after me, I affirm that I will support
I affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of the state,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the office of school board member
the duties of the office of school board member
of Independent School District Number 271,
of Independent School District Number 271,
Bloomington Public Schools,
Bloomington Public Schools,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Some more people came in. Are we going to have them moved?
Congratulations. Does anyone want to take any photos with anybody? We can pause for that. Come on up. I know we have a busy agenda, but this is important, so we're going to take time for it.
Very important.
I don't know.
Right there, the light is good.
Cool, great.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Maybe one more. There we go. Awesome.
Do you have a camera? Oh, he's got him. Congratulations, and thank you for allowing us to take those photos. We'll Wait a second for this to finish up. Okay, could I get approval of the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So we have our agenda, so now we'll move on to election of officers, and I believe Director Steigoff has a slate that she wants to read.
Yes, I'd like to move Chair Nellie Corman, Vice Chair Tom Bennett, Clerk Dawn Steigoff, Treasurer Beth Beebe, Deputy Clerk Rod Zifficat.
The names Nellie Corman for Chair, Tom Bennett for Vice Chair, Don Steigoff for Clerk, and Beth Beebe for Treasurer, and Rod Zifkovich for Deputy Clerk, and put in nomination. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, so those are our new officers. Congratulations. Madam Chair, the gavel is yours.
Hey, Tom, nameplates. Nameplates.
Thank you. Well, this is exciting, so I'm trying to figure out where to start. I want to start by saying thank you to the Bloomington community for re-electing me to the Bloomington Public Schools. This will be my 9th year serving on the board, and I feel very blessed and honored to be part of this wonderful community. I moved to Minnesota 20 years ago when I left my country, started a family with my husband, Mark, and I just fell in love with Bloomington. I love Bloomington, and it is my desire to continue to serve this city and the community and the schools to the best of my ability. As an educator, I can say that I am very, very excited to be able to be given this opportunity. And the same way that I feel very happy today, I also feel a little bit sad because of the reasons for why we're here tonight. So I just want you to know that too. All right, so we're gonna start. I also wanna say congratulations to the new directors, Director Olson and Director Starks, and thank you also to our 2 former board members, Dick Bernstrom and Maureen Barolotta, for the time that they served in the Bloomington Public Schools Board. Next, we're going into the recognition of students, staff, and public. So we're gonna start. This is my first time as chair, so bear with me for this. Well, thank you. Is a paper for this. Okay. Recognition of student, staff, and public. We are going to start with Jets Adapters soccer team. We placed 3rd place in state tournament. I would like to invite at this time I'd like to invite Coach Aaron Walton and coaches Aaron Walton and Andy Mainhardt to say a few words and introduce your students, please. Director Beebe will be handing out the certificates.
First off, I'd like to say thank you to the school board for inviting us and Superintendent Fujitaki. We appreciate it. This was the best finish that we've had for 10 years, and the kids played awesome and played great. And the biggest thing that we always take away is that we have to have fun, and I think we did that this year. And we won our first game in state, lost our second one. The other team scored with 25 seconds left. So we bounced back and got third place, which meant that we all got a bronze medal for our participation. So again, we say thank you. And then we're going to have each of the JET athletes introduce themselves, say their grade, and then the school that they attend.
My name is. Do I need to press the button? Yeah, I got it. Okay. My name is Gabriel Mafadon. I go to Jefferson High School, and I'm in 10th grade. Hold this or something? What do I-
Ahmad Seem, I go to Kennedy and I'm 11th grade.
I'm Isaac Hoggle. I'm a senior at Jefferson.
Jacob, and I'm in 11th grade, and I'm in Kennedy.
Stephen Pichet, 11th grade, Jefferson.
And I'm Johnny Jensen, and I'm from Weberton Grade 2. Thank you.
My name is Riley Prescott. I'm a junior this year, and I go to Jefferson High School.
My name is Maxwell Manward. I am in 11th grade, and I'm in Jefferson. Thank you.
My name is Lucas Bell, and I am in the 9th grade, and I go to Jefferson High School.
And so that we are missing two other students that are from Eden Prairie High School, but they could not attend tonight. And we'd also like to congratulate Ahmad Kasim and Isaac Connell, who were both named to the All Tournament team by Wells Fargo. So they were recognized for their accomplishments in the state tournament. So thanks again.
And y'all get pictures.
Congratulations again, and thank you. Okay, next we have Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals 2018-2019 Star of Innovation Award, Jefferson High School, Jaguar Pride. This award recognizes school statewide for the development and support of an exemplary and innovation education program in their schools. I would like to invite Principal Jason Anderson to say a few words about the project and about the award.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Fujitaki. Thank you for allowing me these few minutes to share a highlight from Jefferson High School. Each year, the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals receives awards. You don't normally hold the button. Oh, they turned it off, but that's okay. It's hard to tell from up here. I'm going to start over. So thank you for allowing me a few minutes to share a highlight from Jefferson High School. Each year, the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals issues awards for innovative programs and initiatives called the Star of Innovation Award. Middle and high schools from across the state apply for this prestigious award. In previous years, Jefferson has won bronze prizes for our TJ Coffee House programs and mindfulness initiatives. However, I am pleased to share that for the 18-19 school year, Jefferson High School was awarded the Gold Star. It doesn't, okay, I will hold it. And we won it for our Jaguar Proud program. Jefferson was only one of only 7 middle schools and high schools in the state to be awarded this honor, and we are thrilled. Jaguar Proud is a new program at Jefferson High School in which our staff committed to celebrating a unique and positive attribute of every single student in the building. We in education often use the phrase, all students, in a variety of contexts, but we really wanted to commit to this idea. So last year, our amazing teachers collaborated on this project, and upon returning from winter break, we revealed the fruits of this effort. This was such a unique project that KSTP News came out and did a short story on it, which we would like to play now.
In our Minnesota moment tonight at South Metro High School, showing that every student matters. On this wall at Bloomington Jefferson High School is a picture of every one of its more than 1,600 students. And next to that picture is a comment recognizing them for something unique and positive. It is a display called Jaguar Proud, and it's been in the works for months.
Being a high school student's hard these days. It really is. And there are students who don't feel recognized, valued, or that they belong somewhere. And we wanted every student here to know that we do recognize them and we do value them.
Principal Jason Anderson tells us that this was a team initiative and that the staff was eager to get involved. Now kids are getting that reminder that they do belong and that they are a part of Jefferson.
It made me really happy. It made my day. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. It was really heartwarming and like really unexpected.
So the hope now is that other schools do the same things. It can make such a difference in a person's day just to say something nice.
Yeah, those years can be so tough and inclusion matters.
It does.
I was worried I was wearing the same suit as in that video, but I think it's different. All right, so we are now in the process of Jaguar Proud 2.0, which will see this project continue, but we'll move from a printed out note
A
card.
Ramsey County program intended to keep kids out of jail is getting pushback from the community.
It was approved back in May. Tonight, Callan Gray explains why there are...
It's my cue to wrap it up. So we're gonna be digital. It'll be out in about a month or so. So feel free to come visit Jefferson and check out our progress. Thank you again for your time and support.
Next, we have the 2019 holiday cards. So we're going to be looking at the display of slides of the cards that we received at the end of the year. On behalf of the school board, we wish to thank the art teachers Robin Kruger from Olson Elementary School and Ann Girton from Olson Middle School and their students for providing original pieces of art for the 2019 holiday cards sent by school board members and the superintendent to our Friends of Education and Bloomington Public Schools. Ms. Kruger and Ms. Girton are unable to attend this evening. However, here are some examples of the students' work. You can see those beautiful cards and admire the great work of our students. Thank you to our wonderful students for creating these beautiful pieces of art. Okay, so next we go on to our students who are attending the school board and are part of the government classes in Bloomington schools. Do we have any students here who are meeting the requirements for the government class? Anybody? Okay, so this time I'd like to invite you at the podium and tell us who you are, give us your name, the name of your school, and the name of your teacher. So if you can start heading towards the podium, please, the few hands that I saw up while I read. A requirement of our 12th grade government classes is to observe a governmental meeting of some sort. Things that they might attend are city council meetings, school board meetings, courtroom proceedings, etc. The Social Studies Curriculum Guide identifies essential standards, one of which is to understand the role and influence of political processes and organizations by examining the role of interest groups, think tanks, the media and public opinion, and the political process and public policy formation. And I would like you to please tell us your name, the name of your school, your teacher.
All right. My name is Matthew. I go to Jefferson High School, and my teacher is Mr. Charlene.
I'm Noah. I also go to Jefferson. My teacher is also Mr. Storley.
I'm Megan. I go to Jefferson, and my teacher is Mr. Storleen.
I'm Henry Noah. I attend Jefferson, and my teacher is Mr. Storleen.
I'm Sarah Wichterman, and I go to Jefferson, and my teacher is also Mr. Storleen.
I'm Mary Mullane, and I attend Jefferson, and my teacher is as well Mr. Storleen.
I'm Megan. I go to Jefferson, and my teacher is also Mr. Storleen.
I'm Eliza. I go to Jefferson, and I also have Mr. Storleen.
Thank you. For our students, at the close of the session or after about 30 minutes, whichever is shorter, you can ask for a signature on the agenda from any of our administrative cabinet members that are sitting on the side tables. Very good. So next we have public comments. Believe? Right?
Yeah, you got it.
Or with this. Okay. Oh, we
A
got
bunch
more
more
students.
students.
You came just in time. Yeah, we would like you to walk to the podium, please, and tell us who you are, the name of your school, the name of your teacher.
I'm Adam Rocco. I go to Jefferson. My teacher is Mr. Storleen.
I'm Jack Steigoff. I also go to Jefferson, and my teacher is also Mr. Storleen.
I'm Hayden Wegge. I also go to Jefferson, and my teacher is also Mr. Storley.
I'm Jacob Marshaw. I'm at Jefferson as well, and my teacher's also Mr. Storley.
I'm Justin Ishak. I go to Jefferson, and my teacher is also Mr. Storley.
Okay. So now we're moving to the public comment session. The process and timeline planned for right-sizing the budget included several sessions of the school board to take public comment. Board Policy 203 pertaining to school board meetings outlines the procedure for recognition of the public. It provides for persons wishing to address the school board on an item on the agenda to be recognized at the discretion of the board chair at the time the item comes up on the agenda. Tonight's school board meeting agenda includes resolutions making decisions for right-sizing the budget. In our past sessions, public comment on right-sizing the budget has been at the beginning of the session. To be consistent, we want to hear public comment tonight before starting action on the series of resolutions for right-sizing the budget. Therefore, I would like a motion to suspend that portion of the policy for tonight's agenda and accept public comment for right-sizing the budget during the regular time set aside for recognition of the public.
So moved.
We have a second? Second. We have a second here. All in favor?
I said second.
Yeah. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody oppose? Okay. We will take public comments from Bloomington residents, parents, staff, and students, and only those individuals who have signed up to address the board. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. We have allotted 30 minutes for public comment on right-sizing the budget. Each speaker shall properly identify themselves with their name, address, or as an employee for maintaining proper order and for adherence to time limits. The rights of employees are protected, and therefore comments regarding the reputation of any persons connected with the district will not be heard by the board while sitting in public session. So we have our speakers. The first one I'd like to call Mrs. Jane O'Connell to the podium, please. And going to be timing, right?
I'll be keeping time, so when the time's up, you'll hear the alarm, so please try to wrap it up at that point.
Yes,
All right,
please
Tom.
tell us your name and your address.
I'm Ms. Jane O'Connell, and I teach at Olson Middle School.
I've been teaching for the district for 26 years, and I used to be at Jefferson High School. Go Jags, woohoo! And I'm honored to help students learn. I have if I start to break down crying, I have Jessica and Stacy behind me. So I'm honored to help students learn. I love their joy of learning as it gives me great joy. I'm a lucky one to have them as my day family. They even call me Mom. Love it. But it's not about me, it's the kids. And it's not hurting them because they cannot be in facts. In facts, we give them opportunity to experience hands-on learning and totally being there for one another. I believe kids learn best with hands-on activities and working in small groups, giving them opportunities to grow. I'm here to facilitate their successes, to help them make informed decisions, figure out what about needs and wants. What do they value? What are SMART goals? What's good credit? How to work together. Making a product hopefully will turn out, but maybe some won't and we'll go problem solving or have that teachable moment. I am proud of them and what they can do. I have great dreams for them. They need life skills and experience. They need facts. Their enthusiasm brings me great joy, as I know they love learning as much as I do. I'm here to advocate and work for my day family. Facts teachers are passionate about what we do, we care about our students, and believe in our curriculum. So I know you're going to make the best decision for our students and all of Bloomington students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Jess Hodgson? Jess Hodgson?
No, I'm good. I was just supporting her.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Kate Brooke Bayer.
Hi, I'm Kate Brooke Bayer, and I'm a Spanish teacher at Jefferson High School. Good evening, members of the board. It's no easy feat for me to speak in front of you tonight. However, I feel that it is of utmost importance to speak on behalf of our electives, specifically world language. Tonight, you will all decide the future of our district. You decide what's essential and necessary for the continued growth of our schools and students. World language is something our schools cannot be without. Our middle school world language program is what allows our students to reach and strive for new heights in language. It allows them to finish their high school careers in AP Spanish or AP French, which report some of our highest AP scores. It allows them to build their critical thinking skills, which transfer to all content areas. And finally, and maybe most importantly, it helps them build and develop empathy. I've been teaching in Bloomington since 2001 when the 3 middle schools began, and actually the reason I got my job was because they were going to introduce world language as a requirement for all students. Later on in 2005, I did go to Jefferson High School. Many students and young families are drawn to our district because of our growing DA program and other programs that we offer. World language is another thing that young families look at when they are looking for a school district. In 2005, when I started at Jefferson, I lived a mile away from Jefferson. I had just had a baby, and in 2006, we decided to move to Eden Prairie because we heard that there was an immersion school. And I knew that I wanted my children to learn a second language at a young age, since that's the best time to learn it. If you vote to eliminate world language in middle school tonight, I fear it could drastically affect the desirability of our district. Every single district around us offers at least middle school language. Many have immersion schools. To do away with world language in the middle school would be to take a huge step in the wrong direction compared to our neighboring districts. It would put them at a disadvantage. It would put us at a disadvantage. We propose possibly moving world language to an elective in the middle school. That would be one option of something to look at. I know my time is up, so I need to wrap up. But we really would like you to consider the potential of the students in the high school. If they do not have it in the middle school, they will not be able to take AP. Many of our students test into higher levels at the college level and save money when they go, they're able to get some credits. So thank you for your time and your consideration, and I know that you will make the best choice that you are able to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Bill Schrant, President, Bloomington Federation of Paraprofessionals.
Good evening. Thank you for recognizing me and allowing me to speak. As paraprofessionals, we are still in the process of negotiating our contract, and we know that you're facing some difficult decisions in making cuts to right-size the budget, but we also want to make sure that you don't forget about us. I want to share some of our story with you as members of the board who make the decisions for the school district. Paraprofessionals are frequently the first people to see students in the morning and the last to see them when they go home. We are there to support their learning, but to wipe their noses, zip their coats, give them a hug, and wipe their tears. Quite often, we know students better than their teachers, and they rely on us on a day-to-day basis. In preparation for our negotiations, we conducted a survey of our members where over 50% of our paraprofessionals responded, which is a great response for paraprofessionals. 42% of paraprofessionals are the primary wage earner in their home. 42%. 60% of paraprofessionals work another job besides their job as a paraprofessional. And 48% of paraprofessionals have been hurt while they've been conducting their job. Paraprofessionals are really looking for a safe environment, better and more professional development, and wages that are livable. Currently, 917 is serving students in Bloomington. Their paraprofessionals start at $18.01. A Bloomington paraprofessional starts at $14.76. Not only are we starting at $14.76, but in the next couple of years, Minneapolis and St. Paul will move to a $15 minimum wage. Not only will we have to compete with other surrounding school districts, as well as 917 in our own, but now we are going to have to compete with other minimum wage jobs. So we are asking, please, as you make these cuts, and as we go forward with our negotiations, that you continue to think about the needs of the paraprofessionals in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into part of Board of Education organization for 2020. This is the part that includes board meetings, study sessions, operation of schools, business functions, etc.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Yes, could I move Roman numeral 7, letters A through J, and on letter C, could I add the names for Chair of Nellie Corman, Clerk of Don Steigoff, and Treasurer of Beth Beebe?
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. I also like to read Part I before we approve. This is about board representation. Be it resolved that the school board confirms the appointment of Tom Bennett to the Intermediate District 917 Board, completing the 3-year term of Dick Bernstrom, which was effective July 1st, 2017 through June 30, 2020, as approved on January 9, 2017. Next, be resolved that the school board appoints Jim Sorum as its representative to the Minnesota State High School League. Number 3, resolved that the school board appoints Nellie Corman as its representative to the Association of Metropolitan School Districts, AMSD, and Beth Beebe and Maya Olson as alternates. Number 4, be resolved that the school board appoints Beth Beebe as its legislative liaison with the Minnesota School Boards Association, MSBA. All other appointments to school board subcommittees or representations will be made by the board chair. Are there any comments regarding this, any of these? With no comments, all of you in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed, it passes, thank you. Now we're going into our next item, which is Part A. I have anybody that can move Part 8 of the agenda?
Madam Chair, so moved.
Any seconds? Second. Any comments? Questions? All of you in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. Thank you. We're moving into Part B now. The first item we have is ratification of 2019-2020 contract with Association of Bloomington Clerical. I'd like to call Mary Burrows to the table, Director of Human Resources.
Madam Chair.
Director Bennett?
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves and ratifies the 2019 through 2021 master contract between Independent School District 271, Bloomington, Minnesota, and the Association of Bloomington Clerical.
Any seconds? Did you second? Jim? Okay. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. Chair Corman, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the school board, I'm coming before you tonight to talk about the clerical contract, and I also have Mary Lynn here, who is also the lead negotiator of the clerical side, to co-present. I know we've done this in the past, and we always invite the units to come forward with us when we bring a contract forward. So, so to go over the agreement, this agreement includes a wage schedule improvement of 1.58% for steps 1 to 6, 2019-2020, 1.52% steps 1 to 6, 2021. Additional increase of 10 cents to step 6, 2021. In addition, the tentative agreement included the following. Previously agreed to out-of-network, out-of-pocket maximums for health insurance that are agreed upon in health insurance. We've talked to the committee there. We've talked about that in the past with other contracts. Increase the district health insurance contribution both years. HSA contribution year 2 due to your IRS and regulations. We have 10 longevity increase of 10 cents for 2019-20 and 2021. We did increase a bus stipend for clerical who are driving bus for us, $1 per hour. We talked about a deferred compensation incentive and approved that for new hires to begin contributing to a 403B. Work year defined more clearly in the layoff section. And then housekeeping changes. So basically years being updated, things being changed just because of the years and the passage of time in the contract. Any questions for me?
No questions? Okay, with no questions, then.
I just want to thank the negotiation team that I had, myself, Allie Blessing, Kathy Pine, Jill Lynch, and Judy Bergstresser. It was quick and down and dirty. We got it done. And then just ask the board, once you do this whole process of making the decision on what the cuts will be, don't forget there's people out there, and you need to help and set the priorities.
Thank you. Okay, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is approved. Number 2, we have ratification of 2019-2021 contract with health services.
Okay, Chair Corman, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the board. Members could not come from health services.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to read them.
Oh, we're too
Yeah,
anxious.
Sorry.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District Number 271 approves the 2019-2021 negotiated contract between the school district and the health services, BFT Local 1182.
Second.
Okay, sorry. Members of health services couldn't attend tonight, so I'll be presenting it. So basically what the agreement is for health services included a salary schedule improvement of 2% for 1920 and 2021. In addition, the agreement included the following: increased the license stipends both years for RNs and LPNs, added a mentor stipend for 1920 only. Again, the district contribution to health insurance increased per the insurance committee recommendations. The deductible out-of-pocket inward network maximum is per the IRS regulations. Again, district contribution to HSA increased per IRS in the contract and the agreement that we have in our insurance committee. We changed some of the language in the health services forum MOU and housekeeping changes. It was a pretty straightforward negotiation. So, any questions?
With no questions or comments, all of you in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. Thank you. Our next item is school calendar 2020-2021. I'd like to invite Dr. Jenna Mitchler to the table.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Other people can read motions too. But be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approved the calendar for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Corman, Directors of the Board, Superintendent Fujitaki. So what you see here is the calendar we're proposing for the 2021 school year. For those of you who haven't heard about this before, we have a calendar committee in our district in that it's made up of several representatives. So we have representatives from administration, from the various levels, elementary, middle, and high school, parents, Office of Educational Equity, transportation. We come together and we pull this together for you. So what you see here is we have tried very hard to get as many instructional days before March 1st as possible. You'll notice that Try 1 has 57 days, Try 2 55, and Try 3 56, for a total of 180 total staff contact days. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about the calendar? Director Starks?
So we're starting before Labor Day again. So can you just talk about how that decision came about?
Yeah, I can. So you'll notice that Labor Day is really late this year, so it's on September 7th. If a district is doing construction, they can ask for permission from the state in order to start before Labor Day, so we've done that. In this case, we really like the model we have here because it gives us the 3 days before Labor Day, 4 days then the week of Labor Day, and 5 the following. So it gives us kind of a nice, easy transition into the school year. You'll notice that the day, the 4th, September 4th, is a day that's not a student contact day, so no staff, no students. This is in order to help us with some of our transportation that first week back. So we know that sometimes transportation is difficult for us, that anytime we would start before Labor Day, and so this is to ease some of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Director.
I just want to thank the calendar committee because I know it takes a lot to put this together. And also, I know that we wanted to get those assessments done beforehand. And I heard it was very successful this year. And so I think it's going to be helpful to do it again before school really gets into motion. So thank you and your team for all this work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So all those in favor of approving the 2020-2021 school calendar, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any passes? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving into our next item, we have authorization of continued employment of School Board Director Maya Olson. Would somebody like to read the resolution?
Madam
please?
Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Director Stein.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 authorizes the district to continue employment of Director Maya Olson as reserve teacher for the district with earnings not to exceed $8,000 in a fiscal year exclusive of board member earnings.
Second.
Great. I just like to read the background so that we all know that this is in accordance with the statute, 12-3B, 195, board members' right to employment. authorizing, the authorization is to have the approval of the majority of the members of the school board at a board meeting at which all school board members are in attendance, which is tonight's case. All those of you in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Going into the next one is authorization of continued employment of School Board Director Heather Starks.
Madam Chair, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 authorizes the district to continue employment of Director Heather Starks as a reserve teacher for the district with earnings not to exceed $8,000 in a fiscal year, exclusive of board member earnings.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Can I ask a question real
Oh,
quick?
yeah, go
Is
ahead.
this something that we have to do every year? Do we have to vote on this, or is this a one and done type thing?
It is only once, is my understanding. Am I
Yes.
correct?
Unless things change, obviously.
Okay, so we don't have to do this every year then?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed, it is approved. Thank you. And we have a school board member, ambassador parents revised, 2019-2020. Is there a resolution for that, or we just? No, we just, okay. Then we go into number 7, which is right-sizing the budget, authorizations, right-sizing the budget, 2020, 2021.
Madam Chair.
This one is for Administration Educational Services Center. Director Steiger.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the proposal for Administration Educational Services Center for right-sizing the budget 2020, 2021.
Second.
Okay, do we need any further information from you, or should
Yes.
we go? Okay, go ahead, please.
Chair Gorman, Superintendent Fujitaki, board members. This is a resolution with the information that we provided in the original presentation for administration. Administration recommends approval of this.
Discussion?
Could you just kind of go over basically the amount of staff positions are going to be cut, what kind of staff members are going to be cut, just for, this is the first time we're having this conversation with this being filmed, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching and they'd like to know.
It's, as we shared back in an earlier meeting, there's 4.5 FTEs within the district across all different units. We don't want to state exactly which ones because the people have not been communicated with regarding this. A lot of some of the other budget reductions that have been made kind of were contingent on where we were at with this. So it's 4.5 FTEs, which is approximately $319,000. Another 108 of miscellaneous departmental budgets, and then $74,000 of either shifts to the Community Ed Fund or the Alt Facility Fund.
Director Sorum, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to call attention to the fact that there'd been 5 school board study sessions related to the right-sizing budget. We've been at this since November, and so there's been lots of meetings and lots of information provided by administration that has led us to the resolution as it stands.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions regarding this resolution? With no other comments, all of those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Next one. The next one is right-sizing the budget 2020-2021 media technology proposal. Somebody like to read the resolution?
Madam Chair, be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the media technology proposal for right-sizing the budget 2020-2021.
Second.
We'd like to invite you to Make any additional comments?
I'm here to just answer your questions, Board Chair.
Thank you. So we'll move into conversation, discussion. Director Bibi.
While I understand the need for this, I know it's difficult, and in this room, many will be not happy with whatever decisions are made. However, we have to be realistic. And in being realistic, I have concerns about the amount of media director time that's going to be taken from our high school media directors. There is more discussion, I believe, that needs to take place. I sent an email late to some of you. I agree with the elementary, the middle school, ESC, but I would like us to discuss more the high school.
Any other comments? Director Starks.
So this one, of the ones in front of us, this is for me one of the hardest ones in terms of voting. When this presentation's come forward, it's kind of been presented as an all or nothing. And with some of the other proposals that we have in front of us, we know if we cut something, what we're saving. And in this case, I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around if we cut media directors, reorganize things, what are we saving? Who are we saving, or what programs are we saving? And so that, for me, has been the hardest thing to wrap my mind around. And so there's nothing necessarily for you, Mr. Weiser, to respond to in that, but I just wanted to share, for me, that's the most difficult part of this particular part of the budget cuts, is that it's kind of an all, or it feels like an all or nothing, and I don't know exactly what the consequences would be otherwise.
Director Steiger.
I just wanted to know if it was possible, since you said you sent some questions late, if we could ask those questions now, and if you could answer them now, so that maybe she could, I don't know, maybe we have to wait. I was just trying to figure out if we could take care of that now, since you had the questions, if you were both willing to do that, so we could move forward with this.
I don't have them in front of me.
If I could just have a moment to locate my email, and then I could read it off from there.
Okay, well, we're waiting. Director Olson?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I would just like to note that school board meeting number 1, budget cuts. That's at the top of my notes. School board meeting number 1. I'm reading it out loud to let this sink in. This is my first ever official school board meeting, and Heather and I were sworn in less than an hour ago. Our statewide school board training for new school board members begins tomorrow. It is also January, the beginning of a new year, 2020. Drastic cuts to public education is not how we should be beginning the new year or our new term, yet here we are. We took on this position for better or worse, and those vows should have been included in our swearing in, I'm thinking. So not expecting the worst to be facing us on day one, I'd like to think that starting out with the worst part means that we will come out of this stronger to fight for a better future in public education. But it does take a village, and we are going to need the village in this fight. This is a very difficult choice, and I'd just like to note that, it's very important that we maintain a positive school climate community, and I appreciate that everyone has been so respectful when they send their pleas to us.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any comments? Director Sorn.
Yeah, I just, can certainly appreciate Maya's and Heather's position. Having been on the board for quite a few years and going through these things periodically, it's just always tough, because there's always going to be casualties. But just to remind everybody that we've been at this since before November, and we've seen various arrangements of the media. We've heard from all of the people who have been here, administration at all of the schools, have been working hard on this with their people. And I just want to say that we have to trust and respect all of the decisions that have come about to get to this particular position. And I guess I'm not in favor of going back and looking to see what we might do, because we've already done it. We've got some schedules to keep as far as staffing goes. We've got some other schedules to keep in terms of finances. And I just think that we have gotten the best arrangement so far. I know they could all be tweaked and one way or another, but I just think that overall, the reduction, the number of reduction, 6.5, to come up with that 800,000 is the best solution at this time.
Director Beebe, are you ready?
Yes,
Got
I am.
Questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My letter reads, while I understand the need for the media center cuts, I have a few concerns. As I learn more about the media director responsibilities, I think we need more time to discuss this, and here are a few of my questions that came up today as I have learned more. Could a moratorium on spending funds on flex learning furniture in order to preserve a full-time employee media director position at each high school level? So funds that go towards furniture, could some of that go towards staffing someone?
Director Beebe, yeah, in the presentation of the slides, which you've seen a few times now, our first approach at hitting that target of $800,000 is to cut areas that don't affect personnel. Flex furnishings is one of those areas. When we work with the numbers of maintaining that program because it's part of the NTL plan, we're cutting that program back by 60 to 70%. So that's significant cuts to flex furnishings. It allows us to continue the concept and the projects that are in the pipeline, and essentially continues to allow us to move that program forward, but at a much lower cost.
My concern is if we have all these furnishings, but we don't have staff to help keep those things in the pipeline.
Furnishings go throughout the building. Most of our guiding principle is to get that furnishings as close to students as possible. So the bulk of our projects are within classrooms.
Is it absolutely necessary to have those furnishings? I mean, kids can sit on floors, they can sit on existing chairs. I'm just concerned that we're putting things in front of people.
I hear you. We could make deeper cuts to that program. We're talking about trying to get a smaller school, since it's proportional funding, enough resources to do something with that funding. So I feel like the 60 to 70% cut we made to that was an appropriate amount while maintaining the program. The flex furnishing project is part of NTL, which again comes before the board yearly. We talk about, and we've given tours and so on our work around innovative, flexible spaces for students and what that means to furthering their education, giving them more opportunities as we continue to evolve as a system. So.
I'm just wondering, because the other part of this is that the people in the position that we need, I've looked at one of our goals is raising our literacy and reading scores. That's a priority for our district. And so how can we preserve and pay for, and I'm looking specifically at high school, a full-time media director for each school? I mean, if that's one of our goals, that has to be over a place for these kids to sit, and a table. There are creative ways. I mean, kids do with much less in other schools. And I think we have a lot that's already been done. I'm wondering, do we have to, I guess I'm trying to say, can't we be content with what we have? We are always telling people, live within your budgets. And so I'm wanting us to live within our budgets. Like maybe you can't afford that sofa until some later date, and you have to put up with what you have. But learning can still continue, even on a smaller scale, or I should say a more limited scale of furniture than it can on a limited platform of positions of people with expertise that can help our students to gain better skills in literacy, especially in our high schools, because the number of students and the number of staff that our media center, media directors, I should say, serve is greater, and especially preparing them for high school. Now, I know you've told me that within the 2 high school media director jobs, they do things differently. And that's a freedom they have. But if one school is accustomed to receiving certain services that are well done by the media director, because of their expertise on keeping up on different media platforms, as well as the MLA bibliographies that need to be taught. I know you've said, well, that can be done in the classroom. But sometimes the time within the classroom is limited. And if you can send somebody to the library during a flex time, or for them to receive one-on-one attention on something that someone is an expert in, it is a benefit to the teacher, it's a benefit to the student, and this student, as I've heard from other parents, are well prepared when they get to college in this area above their peers. I think that's something that would be important for us to keep. And I don't think that that will stay there given these cuts of just a 0.5 at each school. So I'm asking us to look at what is our priority. We talk about not making direct cuts to the classroom, but by not having enough time for the media director to get everything done, even gathering books for each grade for class sets of things that they need to do, it's affecting the classroom. And I think, too, we haven't gotten very much detail. I'm a detail person. I want to see it. I want to know, how is this going to come out? What's the fallout? And I think that's part of what Heather wants to know. What is the cost? What is the sacrifice? What are we willing to sacrifice? What are we not willing to sacrifice? And so that's why I've asked these questions. And if a media director is not going to be able to help, specifically at Jefferson, where I've been observing these things, and I know there are things being done at Kennedy that we want to preserve, who's going to pick up those responsibilities within the media center, the way the tech integration is put together that doesn't deal with the books and bibliographies and classes and training with research? Who's going to take that on? And where will our students lose?
Thank you. Anybody, any other board members have any additional comments? Director Olson.
I was just going to say that I have an issue with the fact that later on we're also voting on non-essential courses to cut, and one of them is reading, and not knowing how that is going to go, I have an issue with the fact that if we lose both reading and media, that what message is that sending to our students? Yes, technology is important, but in order to use technology wisely, we need to have critical thinking skills, and we need to recognize fact from opinion. And students also need to have empathy. And an excellent and important way in which to learn empathy is through reading. So I'm not comfortable cutting both of these, and I have no idea what the next vote is going to be like.
Thank you. I'd like to ask our student representatives if you guys have any additional comments. No comments. Oh, okay.
I think I agree with Dr. Beebe with the importance of our personnel in our library. I actually just asked one of our media directors today a lot of important questions about my paper that we're writing. So I see the importance. I get that. I wish I could vote today. I can't. But I also see where Maya's coming from with what message we're sending our students. I think that's something that we really need to emphasize because we are a district that wants readers for our future. We want empathizers. We want everything that reading and media can offer our students. So I just encourage the board to reflect on that when we make these votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
I agree with everything she just said.
Thank you, Shante. Well, definitely, I think it's the most difficult meeting with the most difficult votes I have ever experienced in my 8 years as a school board member. This is really hard for all of us, as it is for you who are in the audience today, and those of you who are watching too. We have all had the opportunity to listen to the different presentations, to read all material, to ask questions to the administrators, go back with questions, have our thoughts, and then change our minds, go back and forth for the last few months. And when I say we have had that opportunity, I would include the new 2 board members. It is very unfortunate that you have to start your first meeting, your term, this way, but please know that we have all had access to different questions, presentations, different opportunities to get to know a little bit more about this. So that being said, whichever cuts we're making here today does not necessarily put in question how valuable those positions are, but it's the fact that we are here facing a very difficult financial situation that leaves us with no other choices. So please know that it is in our best interest to do what's best for the kids. And at this point, we are put in a very tough spot. Does anybody else have any other additional comments, questions before we move to vote? Director Starks.
Well, so what's hard is sometimes I don't know what questions to ask. I mean, I don't know what I don't know. And again, and I don't mean to keep bringing this up, that it is our first meeting. I know that is well known now. But it is kind of a tough position to be in, and to also try to figure out what the role of a school board is. I think one of the things that's been hard for me is, the communication that I received from teachers, from parents, from community members has been about the value of a program. And I'm looking at it going, well, as a school board, though, are we really making a judgment call on the value of a program, or are we looking at the structures by which that program can exist? I don't know if that makes sense, those two different things. And so, I'm looking at it going like, okay, so if we put the brakes on this, we put the brakes on everything. That's a tough spot to be in. And this particular proposal is a K-12 proposal, whereas something different may be more impactful to one grade level versus another. And so that's the hard part for me, is I'm trying to figure out what lens I need to see all this in and what questions I need to ask, and I'm not even sure that I know what those are. And so this is kind of a tough vote. So I'm kind of looking for some guidance from my fellow board members, especially those of you that have been here for a while, as to kind of what is our role in this? What are we saying with either a yes or a no vote on this? In terms of, are we talking about it from a broader picture of how we need to balance our budget, or are we making a value judgment on programming?
Anybody have any comments to what, go
I
ahead.
think what we're saying, if this motion does pass, is that if we don't, or if it fails, then where are we putting those cuts? And it's, to get $900,000, it's gonna be on the classroom, so it's gonna be raising the class ratio even higher. So the 6.5 FTEs at the media center would be shifted to the classroom. So that's kind of, for me, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, none of these are good choices. This is not what any of us ran for school board to be on. None of us want to make cuts. We all want to add programming and improve our public education system, and this is antithetical to that. And so it's been painful for everybody and our entire community. But for my vote, I look at this and I say, okay, if we don't make these cuts, then where are we shifting it? And I think we were already raising class sizes, we were already raising the ratio, and putting another 6.5 FTEs on that, it gets to a point where you can't stuff more kids into classrooms. We have to find something else other than raising class sizes. And I think, so that's kind of where my vote for this one's going.
Yeah, Director Steiger.
I'll just say that I agree with what Director Bennett said, but also I wanted to add that, because we get a lot of questions and a lot of the comments coming into the right size in the budget and comments out in the community, aren't there other things you can cut? And what people seem to not know or don't understand is that in the years that we joined this board, almost every year we've had to make cuts. It's not, it's just that we've cut and cut and cut, and we're now at the point there's not other areas to go. So I know we had a slide on it, Rod, but I don't want to quote the exact numbers. Do you know off your head just what we've already cut in the last, 5 or 6 years? Can you give us that total?
All I know is this last year, we just cut, for the current year, we cut $2 million.
Okay. So,
It's been, I'd say over the last 5 years, it's been over 10.
yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was well over 10, so.
Go ahead.
Well, I think picking up on Director Steigoff, when we first came on the board and we first had to make that first round of cuts, that first year, I believe it was around $5 million. And we had a document that had low impact stuff to be cut, medium impact, and high impact. And we were trying to do as much as we could from the low impact. And then after that round, everything on that low impact was crossed off. We'd already cut all that stuff. We've cut most of what the middle impact stuff has already been cut. So we're to the major impact. So whatever we decide to cut is going to be something, it's painful. There's no low-hanging fruit to cut anymore. We've cut administration to where they're bare bones. We've cut all extracurricular activities. We've done so much cuts that everything we do going forward is going to be painful. Doesn't matter what we do.
And the board worked really hard to keep it from the classroom all those years. That was our main goal, to keep it from the classroom. So now we're to the point where, as Director Bennett said, if we don't agree to this, then those cuts are coming from classrooms. And that's pretty much our option here, so.
Yeah. Well, it is definitely very unfortunate. It's horrible. As for Director Stark's question, I don't think we're here to question the value of the programs or the value of the professional degrees that everybody has. Is the fact that we are facing a financial situation that has taken us to this point where we either have to pick between one of our programs that we love and the people that we love versus impacting the classroom directly. It is also very unfortunate that year after year, we have to go to the legislature and pretty much beg for more money. That's what we do every year. That's part of, as you ask, what is our role here? Part of our role is to advocate, and this is what every one of us have been doing, you two included, even though you were not board members. You were also participating of advocacy. We're always asking year after year. We're going to visit them. We bring them here. We tell them what the situation is. And this is not, it's not only Bloomington, as we all know. This is happening in all school districts, too. And so we are facing a very difficult situation, and this is where it got us. It's the constant asking for money. Please give us more. Money that has been taken away from our schools, right? And then they give us money, and then they tell us, be happy with what we just gave you because it was 2%. That's a lot of money. Well, where's the money for inflation, right? So it's a very heavy situation, definitely. Anybody else, any comments?
Can I just add, when you're talking about other districts, we were fortunate enough when the cuts first started coming to surrounding districts that we had some fund balance, and we are also able to use some of that for years. So we were doing some cuts and some going down in the fund balance every year, balancing it, where other districts are doing more drastic cuts. And now we're seeing those districts are actually to the point where they're closing schools, where we haven't got there because we're still in making the cuts that they made a few years ago.
Questions, comments?
Okay, one more,
Director
I'm sorry.
Starks. Yeah.
So the other thing that I just wanted to acknowledge is that the cuts, this included, but the other ones coming forward, because we're talking about programs that have narrow staff involvement, there's a name and a face involved in a lot of this, and I'm trying to divorce myself from the name and the face and just looking at it from 6.5 FTEs. So that's just another challenge that I think has been, when you talk 6.5 FTEs and it's just a nebulous number, that's different. But when it's 6.5 FTEs in this particular program and you know those names and faces, that gets to be challenging too, just as a human, emotionally. So I want to acknowledge that as well.
Director Sorum.
And as I mentioned before, I've been through this several times, and as was mentioned, it's almost a way of life now that what are we going to cut? As long as our expenses keep getting higher and higher and the revenue stays the same regardless of what we try and promote, referendums, the state, and going through it that way. As a board, we have to remain at 30,000 feet looking down at all of our students, staff, buildings, and so forth like that. And in any event, there's always going to be casualties. I've had relatives and friends over the years that have been cut. Myself, working for a big corporation, we faced it at the same time. So all of these things happen, and it's just, you hate to just say we're in a business mode, but we really are a business, and we can't go below what our revenue says we have without doing any kind of cutting or readjusting or other types of games that are played. It's just unfortunate, but we have to remember as a board that we're at 30,000 feet. All this other stuff is happening way down below. As much as we like to hear the stories, we really have to divorce ourselves from those stories.
Thank you. Director Olson, did you have another comment? Were you raising your hand?
I have so many, and I know I can't say them all. So I am looking at this from many different angles, and I've looked at it from the angle of our quality principals, whom I trust to make the difficult decisions they have to make for their buildings. I've looked at it from an equity position where media centers, it's all across, it's at every school. And so it's the same cuts for every school versus each building having different cuts. I've also looked at it at a time when teacher morale is low, not just in our district, but across the country. High-quality, passionate teachers are of great benefit to our students, and I, as a teacher in the district, have witnessed our media specialists in action, and I know that they definitely fit the description of high-quality, passionate teachers. Now, I know you said that we're not saying that, but I'd like to point that out. That once we vote to lose our media specialists, that's a permanent, I'm guessing that's a permanent decision, that the chances of ever having them come back is slim. Whereas there might be other cuts where we could fight, and we need to fight. Everybody needs to fight for more money in public education. And we can fight to get some things back, but I don't think that once we do media center cuts, I think that's going to change everything, and I think it's permanent.
Director Steiger, did you have one more comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say for the newer people that did not know this individual who is now deceased, I've often thought in the last few weeks of our former school board member here in Bloomington that this room is named for, Arlene Bush, and her often stating how awful the decision was when she had to close her own daughter's high school, and how unhappy her own children were with her, but she still had to make that decision because sometimes you have to just do the tough decision that you don't want to do. So I've thought of her often, and interesting that our room is named for her, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we definitely don't want to have to make this type of decision, right, today, and that would also impact our own children who attend schools in the district. Anybody else? Are we ready to vote? Should we vote? All right. So in the resolution of right-sizing the budget, 2020-2021 media technology proposal, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
It passes with a 6.
I
Should we do the roll call
I
then?
haven't chosen either.
Oh,
I
you
think it needs
abstain?
to be a
Okay.
roll call.
Let's do a roll call then. Okay, should we start with Director Olson?
I'm choosing to abstain my vote at this time.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 The resolution passes. Next, we move to right-sizing the budget, 2020-2021 elementary schools. Somebody read the resolution, please?
I will.
Director Steiger.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the proposal for elementary schools for right-sizing of the budget 2020-2021.
Second.
Second, any comments, questions from board members? We have our principals here.
Evening, Chair Corman, Superintendent Futaki, School Board. I'm Brian Klein, Principal at Oak Grove Elementary.
Good evening, Roberto Cantu, Poplar Ridge Elementary.
Thank you for being here with us tonight, again. Any comments, questions?
Do we have these slides so that the audience knows what we're voting on?
Could we have the
These, like,
slides of the
Or can you go through what
presentation? the-
this
Sure.
looks like?
At this point, for the elementary, you're voting to increase class size ratios in first, second, and third grade by 1, and fourth and fifth grade by a half.
And that's a reduction of how many FTEs?
2, which is a little over $200,000.
Or 0.2 per site.
Yes. But it doesn't come out that exact.
Madam
Director
Chair, the
Song.
question I have is because we have 10 elementary schools of varying populations and varying grades and so forth like that, and you're all involved and have been involved in talking to staff and everything else about all this stuff, some of the possibilities and whatever else. And of course, you stay up late at night on your Excel spreadsheets in order to figure out just exactly what class sizes are going to be and so forth at your own schools. So this is a general proposal for $650,000 to accomplish as limited a ratio, grade ratio, as possible. And with all the other things, I think it was mentioned, all the other support people and everything that you have within your building budgets that you have to deal with, that this is probably the most reasonable amount you came up with.
Yes, and it ties to two things that were mentioned by board members. One about the difficult decision you just made when you're cutting specific positions with people in it. This is more of a nebulous, right? It's spread across, so we don't know exactly where this will have the impact. And back to what you talked about, when you're hitting the class size ratio, that's always something that, if you have to reduce, you can, we ebb and flow. We sometimes reduce, we sometimes add staffing in classrooms. So that's something that moves back and forth every year.
Any other comments? Director Steiger.
I just wanted to say since we don't have the slide up here for the people, if I have the slide this correct, because it's sideways, so hopefully I can read it correctly sideways. So what they're talking about is, this was 210,000 is the cut now to elementary, but without the media tech integration cut or discussion we just had before this, their reduction would have been another $450,000 that would have been from the elementary. So I don't know if so that people can understand the numbers, that's the difference. So now it's 210,000, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Director Starks.
Okay, I apologize because this isn't exactly in this conversation, but I'm going back to 10 years ago when I was first in the audience when they were doing boundary changes, and there'd be something like this, a vote on, and I'm going, why is nobody asking any questions? Why is nobody saying anything? And now I'm like thinking, if any of you are new to this process, you're like, why are we not? Where's the discussion? So as Jim mentioned, this is number 6 or whatever, but I'm having a hard time not saying anything or not discussing more just for the public's benefit. And so, like, if we can, we just did, but if we can in future resolutions that we have coming up do a little bit more background, I would appreciate that just for future conversations.
What do you mean background?
For, like, we went through what the cuts are in step by step. I'm just looking for that for future too.
Okay, but
Yes.
this is a moment for discussion.
I know.
Just a reminder that for everyone, board members that have anything to add or discuss, or questions for administration or for other members too. Director Steiger.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what Director Starks just said, that yes, we've had 5 study sessions. They were invited to the study sessions too, and we're given information to try to help them be ready for this, our 2 new board members. But also, I just wanted to say that the principals met, and their group has met, and they have worked on this for a significant amount of time, and they're bringing us what they consider is their best plan that they can do. And so there's a certain amount that we have to respect, that these people have been teachers in the classroom, they're educators, and we have to respect that they are bringing us what they think is the best that they can do in each of their buildings, and they've met and already discussed these. So that's another piece of this that maybe the public doesn't realize, is before they ever brought it to us for 5 study sessions, they all met and they've talked to their staff and they've worked with each other, and I'm sure they spent a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of considerable amount of time on this also. So, and thank you for the work that you did when you brought this to us, and that's not just you guys, all of the principals. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? We're ready to vote then, looks like? Okay. So for right-sizing the budget 2020-2021 elementary schools, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. The resolution passes. Let's move into the next one. It's right-sizing the budget 2020-2021 high schools athletics and activities. Invite to the table any of our administrators from the high school.
Read the resolution.
Oh, we need to read the resolution.
Okay.
Please.
Be it
Oh,
resolved.
We're doing the middle school next, aren't we?
No, we're doing
No,
high
we're
school.
doing-
Oh, high school.
next.
Yeah, we're doing the high school, and I believe we said we were gonna read each one of the letters at a time. So when you read the resolution, let's go with letter A.
Resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves option A for high schools and athletics and activities for right-sizing the budget 2020 to 2021.
So, possible to have the slides on the screen, the presentation?
Second.
Thank you. Is it possible to have the presentation for the public to see the options? People in the watching,
Yeah, what do we not?
people watching on TV tonight, or
Why is it not?
would it be possible to have the
I know.
following
I thought they were going to be on there too.
there? Can we have it, please? That would be helpful for everybody to see. Remember what the different options are, so that we can follow.
Makes me glad I did this.
So could administration go ahead and explain what these cuts entail and what option A is, please?
Certainly. So the cuts that are being asked of the high school, which would include both academic and activities, is approximately $800,000 in totality. That is being absorbed by both academic programs for Kennedy and Jefferson, which would include a change to the staffing ratio, which in big picture would mean about a 2.5 FTE reduction at both of our sites. As a starting point for when we do staffing pretty soon. So that would be kind of on the top. That would be the academic weight of the cuts, similar to the elementary school proposal. Then in regards to how athletics and activities puts in their share, we are, and as for context, the high school athletic activities directors oversees the middle school athletics budget, which is why they are tied together. But the athletic cuts would include an increase in participation fees, both athletic and activities, increase of fees. And then the option A, if that's only what you would like discussed, is the elimination of middle school athletics.
Thank you. Any comments about this option? Or any other options?
Well, can you just explain to me how we're doing this? Are we only talking about A?
Yeah, the idea
And then
is that
voting
we are
A?
gonna discuss A, and then we are gonna vote on A, and if it passes, then we don't go into the other two. But if it doesn't, then we have to go to B.
Okay.
And read the resolution again.
What happens if A, B, and C all,
Then it will fail. All of those will fail.
would we have the option to, and I think I emailed you this question this morning, would we have the option to come back to another resolution, should they all fail?
Yes, as I told you, if you want to do it at the same meeting, it's a resolution to reconsider, which requires somebody on the prevailing side to move to reconsider. If you're going to do it at another meeting, it's a renewal of a resolution, and anybody can make that resolution.
Okay, and then my other legal question, are we allowed to amend the resolutions at the table?
You are, you make a motion to amend, it takes a second, and then
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we have the list of different options on the screen.
They're not behind you. That's
In front of me.
Put on this one.
Oh.
You're on this one.
It's coming. Well, that's what we're waiting. Does anybody else have any questions about regarding this option A that we have? Director Steiger.
Well, I'm thinking that since we're waiting anyway, maybe would be a good time for the people at the table, I don't know if this is a Rod or Oliver's question, to address what Director Starks asked, is if this one, all three, are no votes, then what are the maybe consequences of that, et cetera? If you want to address that, what because then we'd have to bring something back and, at the next meeting. So if you could address that maybe?
I think we would defer to Rod on that particular question.
When you're saying a no vote on all three items, or are you saying a no vote on just the middle school athletics, the busing, and the rest? I guess I would like clarification on that.
Is your question, so.
I think she means all three, right?
Yes. But we can amend too, so all of the above?
I guess the as was mentioned in the prior study session, I mean, part of the issue of having the meeting tonight is because of the staffing issues and making sure that we can start processing, because there are bumping in that with everything in the process. Part of the proposal here, the first item there, deals with staffing. So if the board pulls this off for waits for the next meeting, more than likely we would have to either make a decision to roll these cuts over to the following year, because these cuts at this point in time would have a hard time getting into the staffing requirements, because all of a sudden we're already down the line.
Chair, maybe to simplify it, is each of the yeses that we have for middle school sports eliminated activities about $160,000 for each square? I mean, if we decide that we're going to eliminate specific athletic teams and specific fine arts, the total is 160?
Correct.
For A and B, and then
C
C would
together.
be, yes, you'd have to get there.
Well said.
Do it. And we're really talking about staffing for all of these activities. Well, and I mean, it's
You're talking
program-
programming.
Programming too, but.
Yeah, programming is yeah, both.
Yeah, go ahead, our student representative.
I'd like to urge the board to really consider any implications on class sizes, because if, I don't know who said this before, but if we were to not pass one of these and it would affect class sizes, that would be detrimental, because I personally like having my teacher know my name. I like my teacher having a relationship with me. I like knowing the kids in my class. I don't like 40 kids in my class. So I think that class sizing is paramount to the stuff that we are discussing today. So if we can really try to at least get a vote in and make sure that we are not cutting too deep on class sizes. Thank you.
Thank you. Shante?
Madam Chair, I would also believe class sizing is paramount, just because, as Ali said, I think it's really important for our teachers and our students to have that connection to elevate our learning experience. I know we pride ourselves on our teachers, our passionate, driven teachers, and I think I said this at the last study session, and I'll say it again. I want students to be able to get that interpersonal learning ability, just because I think at the last study session, a public comment was, why Bloomington Public Schools? And I mean, if our class sizes are just the same as neighboring, then I guess, what do we have to offer? I don't want our teachers being emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausted because they're having 40 kids they have to tend to, and try to give them that awesome learning experience that we brag about so often. And I mean, again, I'm already experiencing, I'm sure Allie is too, experiencing this in the classroom, and I can already see it burning out some of the greatest teachers I've had in my high school career, quite frankly. And it's really sad, and I'm not gonna get really emotional, but as someone who considers teaching in my future, and seeing that from them, it kind of drives me away from it. And again, I say this in the saddest way. Me and Allie are really lucky that we're graduating this year. But again, the board, I urge you guys to really think about the class sizes, think about our teachers, because quite frankly, it's about the education, and it's about those people giving us that education. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the screen for us, for all of us to see. Director Starks.
Okay, I apologize that I'm getting so in the weeds on procedural stuff, but I think this is what's bothering me. I was trying to wrap my mind around that. If we only discuss A and we vote on A, then essentially okay, let's say someone votes yes on A, you're then protecting B and C, but we don't get a chance to discuss why we chose one over the other. If we're narrowed, and I understand it's probably just a procedural thing, but if we're narrowed to only discussion on one particular thing, I think that's what I'm trying to wrap my mind around.
Yeah. Well, we can certainly discuss them all at the same
Can we do
time
that?
and then vote each one of them.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for, if
That's
that's
not hard to do.
procedurally appropriate. That I'd prefer that. I think that's a more robust conversation. Thank you.
So let's have that conversation on all those different options. Any questions, comments about those?
Yeah, I
Director
think my biggest problem with this resolution is that when, like, for example, when the middle school teachers came and presented their proposal, and they got some comments from board members that neither were acceptable, the middle school principals went and they came up with another option. And we had the same thing with this here, where several board members said, we don't like any of these options, we want another option. And we were never given another option. So it's kind of, this is this or nothing else. And we're looking at A, B, or C. I really don't think those are viable choices. I think A is kind of like cutting off your hand, whereas B and C are like cutting off your head. So obviously, we're not going to pick B or C. So I think this is kind of put into a position where we have to vote to end middle school athletics. And that's really our only choice here, because we're not obviously going to vote to get rid of busing. That's a safety issue. We're not going to start getting rid of programming, getting rid of football teams or baseball teams. So it's really the middle school athletics or nothing is the way it's been presented to us. But when it,
Sorry. When I'm done, sorry.
but when I'm looking at this, I know we have to make the cuts, and I know it has to be done, but I'm more in favor of the idea of separating these two ideas and move it forward with the staffing ratio increases, the increase to fees, and then getting rid of the A, B, or C, and putting that back on the administration to come back with another option for us at a different date where we can have a more of a conversation about it. I think that would give HR department the runway they need to go ahead and start going through the staffing cuts and the bumping and all that stuff, and we can have a conversation about this, because I think this is all a lot at once, and I've used the analogy, it's like drinking from a fire hose, and this thing here, I think we can take off and we can discuss later. So I'm going to go ahead and move to amend this motion. And so that we would substitute option A with increased ratio at the high school level of 1.0, increase high school athletics by $50, and increase activity fees by $40.
Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, any other further discussion about this amendment? All those in favor?
Wait a minute. Why is that different? Isn't that what that says?
No, that would be I'm replacing option A with just doing the increased ratio and the increase of fees, but the $160,000 would not be in this motion. So the task would be set to administration to bring us other options, which may include a combination of A, because my problem here is ending middle school athletics entirely. I know we got to make some cuts, and so that might be, well, let's get rid of it for sixth grade, let's have less options, let's do some cuts in that area, but let's not end it completely. And so that might be, they give us a proposal, well, that'll get us $50,000, and then the other $70,000, $80,000 that remains, that maybe might not be another option for that. But if we're looking at our grand total of cuts, we were charged to cut $3.5 million. If we cut $3.4 million, that gets us really close, and we're not going to have to revise our or amend our board policy, because our fund balance would be over the 5%. So even if administration couldn't give us an option that we could agree with, we would still not have to change our fund balance policy. That's kind of what my thinking around this is.
Just remembering that whatever we don't to the up to the $3.5 million is you're looking at double that where next year cuts when we're already talking 2 to 2.5.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking administration to bring us other options. And, I think it's also important to state that that's a moving target. 6 months ago, we were told that we were going to have to cut $5 million. But then our enrollment came in a little bit higher, the audit came a little bit better, so it moved to $3.5 million. A lot can happen between now and next year. We could get, the governor or of the state could give us 3%. I know that's a wild dream, but you never know. Our enrollment might do better than we're expecting. Our audit might do better again. But once we cut this, it's gone permanently. It's not like if we do better, it's not like administration's going to say, hey, we had some extra money, let's go ahead and bring back middle school sports. No, it's gone forever. So before we end this program forever, I think we need to have a larger conversation. And we don't need to make that decision tonight. The other ones, I believe we do, but I do not believe we need to have make this decision tonight. We can have more of a conversation with other options.
Director Olson, you had a comment.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to eliminate middle school athletics, but I've been talking to districts, other districts all over, and including the one I grew up in, and everybody tells me that the schools don't fund the middle school athletics. The Parks and Recreation or Community Education funds the middle school athletics. So I'm wondering if that is an option here before we do that.
I don't think that's within our control. Parks and Rec, that's city, that's not school district.
That's not the school.
But I'm saying that it's not necessarily gone forever, because, when I grew up, I mentioned this before, I wore, my jersey said Lark for Lyndhurst Activity Recreation Center, and I've talked to other districts, and they were actually surprised that our schools pay for our middle school athletics.
Yeah, Director Olson, that would be great if they would do that. The only issue that we're facing here is time, that we don't know when that could possibly happen. And we are not in position of waiting until the city decides. So it's pretty much in our hands right now. Director Starks, you have a question?
Yep,
Comment.
so I just wanted to, I only support this amendment if this $160,000 comes back to the board in time to cut by this fiscal year. I'm not willing to kick this can down farther one more fiscal year. So to just address Rod, I only support it if we are going to still address it this fiscal year and still make that $160,000 cut.
Director Steiger?
That was exactly, I agree with that, and so I would like you guys to address that. Is that possible or not possible? And then how does this affect for the high schools? If 1 and 2 are decided tonight and the other one is down the road, is that feasible or is that not feasible for, we need to know if it's doable or not for this year, I guess is what I'm asking you.
Mm-hmm. And I personally definitely do not go for options B and C. And I am feeling very uncomfortable about option A only because of the elimination of the middle school athletics.
I guess the only thing I will say is just to reiterate, I said it at a meeting a few times ago, is just to keep in mind that we as building principals and as activities directors, we only oversee a certain amount of, so when you ask us to make reductions, we don't control every facet of our organization from a financial perspective. So we have a limited locus of control when it comes to actual dollars.
Any other comments about this proposed amendment? Or
Can I just make another comment? I hate to put you on the spot to the athletic directors, but I'm not going to ask you this, but I'm trying to remember in our vote that, they're all coming as this is their best offer again. And I believe that they believe that this is what they can do, because I'm looking at someone that until last year was the football coach, and someone that was a teacher until last year, and they're saying, I'm on this team, this is the best I can do, so I'm thinking if there was another option, they would have been very vocal about it when they met already, this group. So, that does weigh in on my decision that I'm looking at, knowing that these people are saying, this is the best option again. So,
Okay.
makes it very hard because I want a different option also, but I also am torn in having to trust them, so.
Definitely. Director Starks, Director Sorum?
Well, yeah, and I was just wanted to follow up a little bit too on the fact that if we do something like that, how, and Tom had mentioned in a grand scheme that we might find that $150,000 somewhere between now and next year. In the meanwhile, the programming, coaching, and everything else is not available yet, or would be available to be working with it. So I guess the amendment doesn't really solve what we want it to.
Anybody else? Director Beebe?
Well, I was encouraged at our last session that it looked like there could be some accommodations for our middle schoolers to join a few things going on at the high school. Given that opportunity, with the options we have, I too disagree with B and C. I am feeling that at least I know that there's an effort to do something. And then I hope that would follow through and would be made possible for middle schoolers. And that would allow me to say yes to A, given the fact that this is your best.
Other comments? Then, well, in regards to this amendment, and as I mentioned, I feel uncomfortable with the elimination of sports. I understand where you're coming from. I mean, we have had many presentations, and we know that you have worked really hard on looking for any other options. And as you have said, this is the best that you can present to us at this point. It's not ideal, but it's what we can do at this point. However, I don't know, or if it's maybe not clear to me, if we have talked about, or if you have talked about exploring other options in case that there is no middle school athletics offer to our kids. Is there anything else, like any other possibilities, such as maybe including these type of activities within community education, for example? Would that be a possible option? Have we explored all other options that maybe if we remove it from the middle school that we can offer to our kids? That's the part that I'm still like feeling uncomfortable about, because as the board members mentioned, if this is going, it's going for good. And so it would be very unfortunate if we cannot bring this type of programming back into the school district.
Can I answer one of the questions? Yeah, we explored it with community ed, and, they came back saying it's gonna cost money that they wouldn't have. It'd be a losing proposition for them. So that's why they're not able or willing to take it on. We looked into means within our district, to see, because yes, some other districts offer through community ed and rec. And how they fund, how money follows in that district may look different than us, but our money would just follow the same, so it'd be a losing proposition, the way it's run.
Okay.
So the answer, yes, we did look.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Can you just, because I'm new, can you just explain then, so would we be putting it off until, so maybe, how would that work?
Would you
Yes,
explain
we would-
the amendment?
What was the
again?
amendment? Read
So
the
what we'd
amendment
be
back.
doing is we would approve, if we vote to amend this, then the amendment would be for the increased staffing ratio at the high school level, and the increased activity fees and the increased athletic fees. And then the other $160,000 would be us directing the administration to give us other options. And then But that option could also include option A. If they go and look for other things and say, yeah, well, maybe we could do a combination of A and C, and then they could present that to us, so we see what the other options are. It might be a combination of A and then $50,000 or $80,000 from another department outside of athletics. It might be something fully different to get us to that $160,000. But those are the type of options that I would like to see instead of passing this tonight. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Director Steiger.
I just wanted to add to that, but it may come back that we decide that this is still the best option.
Yeah.
That's
We
what I
don't
said.
know
It might come
is
back
what-
option
Is
A.
what he's saying.
Come back.
But I feel like, maybe I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I feel like I still need to know, Director Stark's question is, if we do this amendment, can this still be done in this budget? Because I'm not willing to kick it down to next year, another year. So is it possible, if we came back and looked at just that part, can we get into this budget or not?
That's up to the board's decision. The board is the one that controls where the budget actually ends up at. So it's the board, if the board wants to make sure that the administration cuts 167,000 additional after approving these two resolutions, then, I mean, the board will either keep having us come back, or if the athletics is the only one, then it would have to approve that. I think it's all the board itself of making that final decision.
I get that, but before the discussion was if we delayed some of these, that it would not be in time for this budget cycle, so.
We would not be able to do other options that we're dealing with staffing for classroom staffing and the rest, because we'd be past our layoff procedures.
Okay, thank you. That answers it, thank you.
But if we just take the middle school sports off, you wouldn't be able to do any of the staffing cuts, is what you're saying?
No, if you took off the middle school sports
Yes.
piece, if you came back later and wanted to say is, okay, we want you to increase class sizes to be able to pay for it.
We would not
We
be
were
able
already past the deadline for
Okay.
that to come
Okay,
up with it.
thank
That's
you.
why we wanted to have the meeting tonight to be able to finalize that.
So those, what you're saying is those other options that we're talking about we'd like to hear would not be feasible anymore because the staffing would already have to be done and the cuts would already have to be done. We couldn't really come back with option D because if it was more staffing cuts, we would be beyond the deadline. Is that what you're saying?
I'd say if you're planning on touching options that have teacher staffing impact, you would not be able to do it after
Okay.
this point in
All right.
time.
It have to
Thank
be
you.
a
That
different
answers
type
it.
of
Thank you.
option. Okay. Do we want to go ahead with that amendment, or do we have more conversation to hold? Director
We're still
Sordo.
dealing with the amendment. Did you say to increase class size again, more than
Oh,
what's
it's
here?
what's in the original motion, so it's the same thing, increase ratio 1.0, which is about 2.25 FTEs per site. So that's the same. The first two lines on here are the same.
Yep.
We're just getting rid of the last four lines.
Okay, so there was not an increase
No.
in the increase.
No.
No increase. No, definitely not.
Good question, though.
Do we want to go ahead with this amendment, see if it passes? People feel comfortable with that now? Does everybody understand what we are voting on?
Well, Ally's got a question.
Oh,
I'd just like to thank the board for, making sure that we're taking the time to consider these options because these are huge impacts on our students, so, thank you.
would you like to?
Are we just gonna do roll call?
Would you like to read the amendment then, and then,
I
and
think it
then we
already.
do a roll
I
call?
think it's been read and I've said it like 4 or 5 times. Does
No, I just
anyone
so that
lack
everybody's
clarity?
clear, because you're explaining it in different steps.
So the amendment is to strike out the words option A and replace it with increase ratio 1.0, increase high school athletics fees of $50, increase activity fees $40.
Okay, is there a second?
That's already been seconded.
It
We need to
was.
vote on it.
Yeah, I
Okay,
seconded. yeah.
perfect. Okay, roll call?
Sure. I'll go and start since I made the motion. So I vote aye.
Go that way?
Someone else, I'm still thinking.
That way.
Aye.
You gonna vote yet?
She's still thinking. Okay, so aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Okay, the amendment passes.
So now we have to vote on the actual resolution.
Now we need,
As amended.
okay, now we need to vote on the resolution as amended. Would somebody like to
We just need to vote.
read the
We
resolution?
don't need to read it, we just need to vote.
We don't need it? Okay, so, on right-sizing the budget 2020-2021, high school's athletics and activities, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No opposed, so it passes with the amendment. Thank you. Our next one is right-sizing the budget 2020. Thank you to our administrators. Right-sizing the budget 2020-2021, middle schools. Somebody like to read the resolution?
Madam Chair, be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves option B for middle school for right-sizing the budget 2020-2021.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Here's our administrators with us today, our middle school principals. Would any of you like to say something to us or explain once again what this is about?
We're presenting to the, Sharon once again, I shouldn't say presenting, Sharon once again, the middle school right-sizing the budget options. I guess we're down to options B and C in terms of a high school type model, or we run a variation of the middle school model, or we keep the middle school concept still in place of the teaming. That's the first piece, and the second piece is for the board to look at, decide what 2 course offerings of the non-required courses need to be reduced for help us achieve the budget reduction asked for by the board.
Thank you. Director Bennett.
Yes, first, I just want to thank all 3 of you for all your effort and hard work on this. I've been in every one of your guys' office, talked to you guys for lots of times, and emails, had conversations, and you guys have been very accommodating to any of our questions. And when you brought us options that we didn't like, you guys went and found another option. So I really thank you guys for that. I know this is all difficult for everybody, and would rather not have any of these options, but I want to thank you guys for all your hard work. And also, for some reason, you guys are always last on the agenda. So I want to thank you for staying here till 10:45 at night, in the late nights after being in your buildings all day, and then being here all night, and then having to go there again the next day. So I just wanted to throw that out there right quickly. And as the motion has been read, just for everyone to understand, that was option B. So that is switching to the 6-period day. But we can have a conversation on both of them. And if through this conversation, it's evident that we want the C, we could either vote this one down and read another motion, or we could amend it and change it to C. Either one. Probably be easier to vote this down and then vote the C.
Exactly, rather
But-
than amending.
I just want to throw that out there. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I'm not chair anymore.
I forget. Thank you. All right, well, the resolution has been read. Administrators are here with us, so any comments on those? Director Steiger.
Yeah, I would just say that after much discussion with the principals and staff, and what I'm hearing from other people even outside of our district that in middle school, maybe some board members that have also taught in middle school, let's just say, I would say that I am not in favor of B, and I would prefer that we keep the middle school model. So if we're all in agreement with that, unless someone is not agreeing, can we just hurry up and vote it down and then go ahead and pass the other one?
I actually need you to repeat that. I just didn't hear it clearly.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I said after all the discussion with multiple people, I am not in favor of going to the 6-period day, and I would like to keep the middle school model. And so unless there's anybody else that wants to speak to go to the 6-period day, I would say let's just quickly vote this one no and go ahead and vote yes to the other one, so we can move along and not have a half-hour discussion about it if we're all not interested in this option anyway.
Director Starks.
Okay, so I'm not saying that I'm in favor, but I do have a question, a clarifying question.
Yep.
If regardless of B or C, we're still having the discussion about, okay,
Correct.
correct.
Still need to decide on the non-required courses to fit into the parameters of making the
So
reduction.
this decision doesn't affect that.
No.
That, I needed that clarification. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any other comments or questions on that? Should we go ahead and move? Director Song.
And the only reason I'm going to say this is because it reminded me that Rod says we're still going to have to cut next year. And as we cut next year, we get into the middle school options again too. And I know there's been some suggestion about eventually we might have to go to a 6-period day. Now, that could be just what I heard, you know, floating through the air or not, but I still favor middle school model, and then realizing that during the course of this next year, we're going to have to probably worry about the next year. So that as we get into that, that might mean program changes of a greater magnitude than just cutting 2 of the exploratory classes.
That's correct. If you look up on the screen, sustainability is the one issue that is the concern with the middle school model.
Director Starks.
Okay, so, and I do have a concern with that sustainability, but I just want to share, as Director Steigoff mentioned, I did teach middle school and I did teach in a middle school model. And so, Director Storm, I feel like it's worth protecting as long as we can.
Yeah.
Even if we do come back at the table next year and, oh my gosh, we just don't have the money, we can't make it work, we had it for one more year. So that's,
I agree, so
Yeah.
I'm in support of C, not B, C.
So should we vote this down then?
Let's vote.
Yeah, just one final comment. I have been, I'm both a middle school and high school teacher, and because I know, I've seen what happens in the classroom with those kids, I definitely will second that Director Stark just said. You know, if we can keep it for as long as we can, that's for the best, for the well-being of the kids, in my opinion. Thank you. We ready to vote then? Should we just go ahead then and vote with this right-sizing the budget 2020-2021 middle schools with the right resolution of option B? No,
We're
C.
saying option C is the
Option
motion
C.
that's on the table.
Yeah.
The 6-period day.
Option B is on the table. Option B is on the table.
Day is on the table. Going to the high school model is what it
Going
was
to the
called.
high school model is the first one we're gonna vote, okay.
To clarify.
So all those in favor of this resolution with going with the high school model, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
no.
Nay.
It's aye, but.
Aye.
That sounds wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so
Aye. What did
that option B fails. No, we're moving into the next
Madam
one.
Chair.
Please, go
Be
ahead.
resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves option C for the middle schools for right-sizing the budget 2020-2021.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And is this one, option C passes. Thank you. Then we move into our last one, I believe, is the right sizing the budget 2020-2021 middle school courses. Would somebody like to read the resolution, please?
Sure.
Anybody?
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the elimination of 2 of the 4 non-required middle school course possibilities: world language, facts, tech ed, computer science, and reading for the middle school right-sizing the budget 2021.
Second, okay, thank you. Go ahead. Anything? You need to
Is there a
talk?
question?
Okay. Then we'll go with
Specific
the
questions.
board
Easier to go
members.
with the specific questions instead of freestyling.
We'll go with
Well,
discussion and
I think-
questions.
So once we decide on which 2 ones we want to keep, and we're gonna have to amend this motion to,
Mm-hmm.
because right now we have all 4 of them in there. So I think we're gonna try to whittle this down to the 2 that we find that has 4 board member supports, and then put it in there, so. This is a lot of making of the sausage that we're gonna be doing, so.
So it's choice 1, 2, or 3.
It says,
No,
it
it's
says
two out
two
of
of the
four.
four, though.
two of the
That's
four,
four.
so we have to decide which two.
Yeah, we need to come in consensus and
To
then
eliminate.
amend the resolution before we can pass it.
Does that sound right there, parliamentarian?
Yes, it does. You said you're gonna eliminate two, and you've listed all four of them.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
will, that was just to put it on the agenda so we can have the conversation, and then it'll be amended if we can get to an agreement.
Well,
So I
let's
guess
just
to start questions
conversation,
off,
yeah.
my first question is, when we're saying our required classes, because we're gonna, right now, we have, on a daily model, or on the AB day, we have, for all 3 years, we have Phi Ed and we have music, band, or orchestra, correct?
Correct.
Do those have to be offered on a full year, or could say for 8th grade, Phi Ed was only offered as an exploratory, as like as one of the options of the exploratory, and then so that would allow us to have, say, a full year in 8th grade of a foreign language?
What's required is for us to meet the content and standards. They don't specify a certain amount of time in there. So what's required of those courses by state statute, and what's embedded is the current curriculum and content we do in Bloomington to meet those standards. So to change and unravel that would be time spent going through to look at the content in terms of the curriculum and how they meet the standards.
And through this process, we've come up with a number of scenarios where some of those subjects will have a reduction in time, but we still have to have them in our course schedule each year. So for example, perhaps PE and health, they wouldn't have that every day in 8th grade, but it might maybe go to a more of a quarter basis or an every other day type situation. It still needs to be offered, and with all of those scenarios, we still need to reduce or eliminate 2 of the non-required courses.
And the biggest thing
We've
for
vetted
us-
that all through already.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for us to meet the target at the right size in the budget is have the board decide of what 2 of the non-required courses to allow us to meld together required courses to get down to the ratio to make sure we hit our number. And so in terms of the minutes of health and Phi Ed or visual arts, I mean, that's really getting deeper in the weeds, but doesn't really impact whether or not, the course stays or not. So really for us to decide what 2 placeholders from that non-required fit into the schedule so students can have no holes in their schedule, that all the spots are filled. Right now, all these courses together, in terms of how we staff the middle school model, is expensive, as we know. And for us to make reductions, we have to reduce a couple of those courses, which involves increasing class sizes and removing a course to fit within the parameters. So that's the biggest pieces for having those non-required courses. We're down to the decision-making processes is 2 of those 4 courses need to be removed.
Okay, well, why I asked that question is because if of these 4, they're all going to be offered on a quarter basis. So they're only going to get a quarter of these,
Correct.
of the 2 a year. So that's kind of, and when looking at world language, a quarter a year of world language isn't really enough for any type of language acquisition when you're doing it every other day for a quarter. So that's why I was asking the question if it was something that we valued, that we as a board decided, well, we don't want to get rid of world language because we need to be, I don't know, since I've been on the board, I've been wanting to move the other direction. I've been wanting to have language starting at preschool, and this is going the wrong direction. So this goes against what I value in education. So, but then keeping it from at a quarter at a time doesn't make much sense. So that's kind of why I was saying, could we alter it to where we had, for 8th grade, at least a full year of foreign language, and put one of those others that are on a full year into the exploratory quarter model. So that's why I was throwing that question out there.
And the difficulty would be reducing the minutes of the current courses in terms of how they're designed with meeting the standards set in place in terms of their content and curriculum.
Okay.
Well, Director Beebe?
I had a question about, I have not had anybody come to me asking me to, or any that's gone directly to the board, to keep tech ed computer science. Has anybody else gotten any requests for that? Yes.
I've talked to a lot of the students that know about the cuts, and I've had some students come up to me and tell me about that they want tech ed to stay.
They want tech ed to stay.
Yes.
Well,
I've had not questions that
Right.
came to the board, but in conversations with people, I've had people tell me that they thought tech ed needed to stay. A little bit primarily because of we're doing computer science in elementary, then where is the pathway when you get to middle school if we do away with tech ed in middle school? So that was a conversation some people have had with me, and then other conversations they brought up to me is that, you know, in the changing world that we live in, the technology is where the jobs are going to be and where their careers are going to be, and that is desperately needed for their future, I guess you could say, and many people expressed to me, so.
So computer literacy is pretty much a given in the workforce today. I mean, I have to be computer literate to apply to my part-time jobs after school, and that's me as a 17-year-old. So I think that, like, not even disregarding the people who have come to me, I value tech ed personally as a student.
Director Starks.
So I'm going to throw a wrench in this, and it was discussed at a study session, but I want to explore it further. Walk me through the scenario where we let the students choose their two, and we turn them from exploratories to electives.
That'd be option B in a high school model. So with that, you know, we'd go through and let students choose, and then you'd create and say we need, you know, 1.2 teachers or 0.5 teachers, and maybe more the high school model where it's more of elective based. And they do, you know, we do a middle school model. It's a model, right? So we're looking at reducing, instead of having 10 teachers in the grade level, we're going to go down to 8. And we're going to have those 8 sections in the grade level. When those kids go to the exploratory classes and those teachers have their prep, they fill 8 sections in the exploratories. If you go to high school model, then students register and we decide how many sections we need in math. Like every course would be up for in terms of sections. So we might need, currently we have 6 math teachers each middle school. We might need 5 because we can combine classes in terms of across grade levels. Where honors math in 6th grade is the same honors courses in 7th grade. So you potentially have some combining classes there, but you'd have that flexibility that would, you know, provide that student choice, but then you would create for a lot of multiple part-time positions that we'd fit in the schedule, which is, again, just similar to a high school schedule.
Yeah, so to put it in short, I like to summarize what he says. You're staffing on sections, which is how the high school does it. Option B, which was voted down, versus staffing on a model.
Okay.
And so
I
by doing an
apologize, I didn't
exploratory.
understand the
That's
difference
okay.
between those. And
That's
so
okay.
I maybe would have brought it up then when we were discussing B, only because, well, I have a lot to say, but I want other people to have an opportunity.
I'm glad you're
to talk
asking the
too, so-
questions, but yes, it is
Okay.
staffing on sections and enrollment, which is the option B, versus staffing on a model, which in a middle school model, you are exploring the different courses that are offered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Steiger.
I just want to add on to that's an important question because we've been asked that a lot, and I've seen a lot of emails come in that why can't it be electives? And I know that you guys had said that it's, if you want to keep middle school model, they can't be electives. I mean, that's really it is. So we had to choose between middle school model or having them be electives, I guess. And you said we still had to make the cuts, so, okay. So it's important for the public to hear that because they all weren't here for the study sessions to hear those conversations, and they don't see all of our all the questions that were asked, and that was definitely a question that I think I saw come in again this weekend sometime.
Go ahead. We're going with Director Olson first.
Well, obviously, this is a really difficult decision. I just wanted to mention, well, you probably know now that we cut media, I mentioned that I didn't want to cut media and reading, so you probably know that, but this makes it really difficult because also, as Tom said, world languages, we should be going to earlier ages instead of later ages, but also, Beth, you were kind enough to invite me to a recent AMSD meeting, which is the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. I know it takes longer to read that out, but I'm learning acronyms, and I appreciate when people tell me what the acronyms are. The Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development, Steve Grove, was the guest speaker, and he happened to speak on the importance of preparing students for in-demand occupations and labor market trends. He spoke, tell me if I'm correct, did he not speak specifically as to how FACS and Tech Ed are priorities for creating equitable opportunities for our students? So that just made my decision more difficult because, yeah, I'm not in favor of cutting any of these. And I think they're all equally important.
Definitely. Director Storm?
And I was going to respond to Director Starks when she said she's in favor of having the middle school model for one more year before we have to go. And then she said she wanted to have the students making some choices for those 4 subjects. You can't have it both ways. That's what we're here for. So the idea being that if we are going to go to the middle school model, we have to eliminate 2 of these. And at the same time, we're going to prepare possibly for, the 6-period day at our middle schools for sustainability and being able to add the word of language and some of the other things that they need to have on a quarter system. But we're not making that decision now. We have to decide which of the 2. And I've made up my mind from the number of emails and the number of people that I know that facts and reading are my 2 favorite to keep.
Thank you. Anybody else?
They're going, listen to them.
Holly?
I know that there's been a lot of discussion talking about how we wish the students could decide, and I think me and Shante are the closest you can get right now with what we have, and I'm pretty much begging you guys to keep reading. I'm urging you guys to make that decision.
Did you say reading?
Reading.
Shante?
I also agree with that, just because, especially at that developmental stage in adolescence, it's critical to have critical thinking at that age and keeping that going. Because in high school, in senior year, you're only required, class is to take English because that's a lifelong skill. That's something that you're always using and always developing. And I don't see any option that doesn't have reading in it. I guess I'll segue with that also being if I had to pick another one to keep, I couldn't, because I loved facts. I took as many culinary courses in high school with Miss O'Connell, and I learned a lot from that experience too. Tech Ed, just like Allie said in our previous study session, it opens career paths that you wouldn't have probably even knew about if it wasn't required. But then again, there's world language, which I've actually been teetering, because ever since our last study session, I've been feverishly going to teachers and students wanting to know how they feel about this. And again, I'm going to refer to why Bloomington Public Schools, and I think Senora Brookmeyer said this when she said a lot of other districts have emergent schools, and we don't. So getting rid of that gives away the appeal. Also, if we're looking at our modern day workforce and America as a whole, we're one of the most diverse countries in the world, and being able to speak another language doesn't not just provide you critical thinking, it also gives you a higher chance of getting a job being able to speak another language. So I just needed to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, and then I'll go.
Okay, Director Starks.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that this one has been the one I've by far spent the most time looking into and researching and thinking about. And maybe it's just because that was my world for a while, but I'm really struggling with making this decision because I don't feel like, and I'm only going to speak for myself, that I don't have enough information and I'm not the right person to be making this call. And here's why. Because it's if you show me that, world language is good for kids, I can find facts is good for kids, tech ed is good for kids, reading is good for kids. They all have value. That's not a conversation we're having. I'm curious about how hard is it to staff some of these. I even went into which areas of licensure are in shortage areas in economic development area 11, that's the Twin Cities. I went into how many post-secondary institutions offer certain licenses. I got really into the weeds and then got out and went, why am I trying to understand this? And I'm really frustrated that we didn't ask for community input. We didn't ask parents and we didn't ask students. And I think had we asked, we might have seen one or two of these bubble up to the top. I don't use the volume of conversations that I've gotten through email. I think some people weren't fully aware of what was going on until today or yesterday. I got a flood then. And so I just don't, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, well-rounded education. ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds, that plan has well-rounded education in there. Every one of these qualifies under that. Which one's better than the other? I can't, I'll say this right now, I can't vote on any of these because I can't find an objective way to make two of them bubble to the top and two of them bubble to the bottom.
Director Beebe.
I think I hear loud and clear the importance of reading. And because if you can read, you can learn to do almost anything and be a self-learner for the rest of your life. So I think that needs to be kept on the table. I also received an email that made me see something from a different perspective, and I think it's a very important perspective because it shows an option that is needed for our special needs kids. And FACS is one of those that I think benefits all, but it especially benefited the students that are in a DCD class. They learn conversation, they learn relationships, they learn skills, they learn something to take with them, and it's a positive in their day. I think that our FACS teachers have expressed some very good things that are happening and that I would like to see continue. To me, it was a highlight of my day to be in my, in my FACS class. We also need to look at the fact that, yes, foreign language is really important, but how much can they really get in the middle school at this point? My kids actually went to a school where they did not get that until high school. And they were fine. When they got there, they put their all into it, and they learned. I think, too, we have to look at these are adolescents. They're younger. When you get into high school, you have lots of electives, and they can be seen as exploratory courses. We have the Career and the College Academy, which gives you opportunities to pursue things and become computer literate, to receive a certificate. There are great options ahead of these students. This is not the end. It's just the beginning. And if it was like, well, if you didn't take tech ed, you couldn't get into any of the other courses we have at the high school, well, maybe that would be really critical. The other thing is, if you couldn't get into the Spanish classes at level 1 and had to have a pre-something before you could do that, well, then the world language would be a really critical thing. The thing I'm hearing is that it's going to affect AP classes. The other thing is that I hear is that, and I talked to my son about this, because I said, what do you think about this? And I didn't tell him what my decisions were. But he said, we have this relationship with Normandale. We have a lot of students that go off and do PSEO, and that's an option for them at that level. It's not like it's a dead end. It's like this is a gateway, but I think at this age level, FACS is important for relationships, it's important for learning communication, for our EL students, It's a way where they can use language and they can be able to feel comfortable because it's more informal. It's not being put on the spot in a classroom. So I want to encourage that. I also read something, somebody attached something for me to read, and I read it, and it said that 72% of the students in a reading class said if they didn't have the reading class, they would not read at home. We have to have this reading. So these are critical things. I think that the world language and the tech ed computer science is something that could be made up in the high school. And that's where students might be more serious about it. And it won't be, there's also, I just saw that we got a donation to a robotics club at Valley View. Is that correct? That there is a robotics club there?
Yes, there's a robotics club there. It serves about 7 students.
Okay, well, maybe it would serve more if there's more kids that are interested, if it's advertised and those that are robotics enthusiasts could join, so. My thoughts.
Director Steiger.
Well, I have several things, but I also want the question that came up about staffing. I'd like to know if the table here would be willing to talk about which of these options is hardest to staff and what you see as far as staffing on them, if you would be willing to address that. And then maybe I'll hold my other comments for after that, if that's okay, if I can reserve my time for the rest of that. Thank you.
Was the question what model or what courses? I'm sorry, just repeat the question.
Of these options, what are you already finding difficult staffing?
Well, within the last year, I've had to fill all these positions, and there's been minimal candidates for all 4 positions.
For all 4?
Yep.
Okay.
And we've had to look around and call people and ask people to apply and get a variance from HR to have a person teach out a licensure. There's not a lot of teachers in general coming out applying for jobs. And recently I've had a long call math position, reading position, where I, again, couldn't find people that would be applying. We rotated different building subs in to fill those positions.
And I would just say, we have computer science at Valley View. I had the opportunity to observe computer science today. They were using algebra, they were using what they were learning in the math class and applying it to what they were learning in the computer science class. And with computer science, you can use a teacher who has a math license according to the state licensing board. And so for computer science, that is one that we can staff a lot easier than we can staff the others because it's a math licensure, and there tends to be more math teachers out there than world language, tech ed, and FACS.
Thank you.
I would agree with both of them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, after reading the emails, different type of communications we have received from members in our community, teachers, parents, etc., in doing my own research too, and based on my own experience as well as a parent and educator, I see great opportunities in a class like the FACS class, like, Director Beebe talked about before. We're talking about an equity opportunity here as well, where many kids, all kids can actually be included, all of our kids. And so we're providing a great opportunity for all of them to develop their skills from very early age all the way to the end. Is this a class then that needs continuation, like goes from elementary all the way to high school, and it's preferred that there's non-stop in between? The FACS, no, it doesn't go elementary, middle to high school. There doesn't need to be like continuation to get into the high school.
No, there are no prerequisites for the entry-level FACS classes at the high school.
Exactly, okay. And the same with the tech ed class, how it benefits students, especially with the type of world that we're living in right now, and how we're knowing from the experts that those type of skills the kids need to acquire now when they're little are going to be the type of skills that are going to be needed in the workforce. that this is what we're starting to see. So from that perspective too, I really like the idea of continuing to provide those two options for the kids. With world languages, my biggest concern would be, like it was mentioned before, how much can the kids actually learn if they're taking a world language class every other day for a quarter, for just a short amount of time? Same goes with reading. You know, how much can we actually help them? I know that reading is very helpful. With world languages specifically, as a Spanish teacher, I would say that it is preferred definitely to have the kids every single day. Even with my immersion students, you know, you let them go for about 30 days because they go on vacation and they come back and they struggle with the language. And so if you have a lot of kids taking Spanish, for example, every other day, then it's probably likely that they're going to forget a lot of those very easily. But I do worry, however, about the type of options that we're providing in the high school. So if it is needed for the kids to get into the AP class, that they take at least one level in the middle school, that would be my concern, that we don't give this type of opportunity for the kids to take the AP class, which is it's a good class, or to even be in level 5. So that's kind of where my concern is in regards to world languages, and where I'm kind of struggling, or whether or not we're saying, okay, we're going to keep world languages or not. On the other side, too, then we have this type of opportunity of the AP class provided at one of the high schools, but not at the other one. So once again, you know, we're providing for some, but not for all. So I don't know how fair that looks, too. I know that you can still offer the test if the student is prepared. My question about reading would be, in which other areas, can you tell us, since you're principals, in which other areas that are not reading class do teachers work on mastering reading skills, and how do they do that in your schools?
So language arts would be the primary area where they're working on reading skills, and especially in 7th and 8th grade as reading tapers off. Currently, in 8th grade, we don't offer reading. We only offer language arts. 7th grade, we offer half year reading. And in 6th grade, it's split. A full year of reading, full year of language arts. So specifically to reading, language arts would be focused on those skills as well. Now, all areas are going to have aspects of reading, and should reading be eliminated, of course, we'd need to take a look at the infusion of reading into other areas. But again, specifically, it would be language arts.
Language arts. Because I think it is very important that we continue. If it happens that reading is taken away, you know, it's one of the options that we have here, we need to make sure, we need to guarantee that then we're filling that gap that we're living in a different way. You know, what other things can we do in all the different areas that we can go deeper into the development of those reading skills in all of the classes. And I'm just saying this because, you know, part of the goals that I receive as a teacher at the school where I work is you have to work on reading, and it goes for everybody, and it goes for band, and it goes for arts, and it goes for every single one, for science. And so there are specific goals that you have to meet because we're all working towards being more successful in the MCAs, for example.
Yeah, I would say all three of us are, you know, our building goals and our district goals are reading goals. And so we tell all of our teachers we are reading teachers. And so, yes, critical reading is taught at every single, in every single course. To the degree that, you know, fiction, nonfiction, genre, and things like that are taught, that's more reserved for the language arts courses.
Exactly. Thank you. Director Steiger.
Okay, so thank you for your input on these difficult decisions. So my comments after some of our questions for you are that I've heard, I think, a number of people say that they think that reading needs to stay, and I would agree with that. And I often think about the fact that the person in my child that is significantly cognitive impaired can do minimal meal prep himself, but not because he had facts class, because he can read. And if he could not read, he could not do that. So I think that, the reading is really essential to everything else, no matter what other class we have. If we can't read, then, that seems to be the foundation of every other class we have. So I would agree with the reading. The other thing is I do feel that the world language in the format that the students would get it in middle school is not valuable. And so I would be for discontinuing the world language. The other two, I guess we'll wait and see how the discussion goes. I'm still undecided.
Director Olson.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about keeping reading because I've substitute taught reading many times over the years, and recently they dissect characters in the books and discuss characters to a great degree, and I think it is truly the best way to teach empathy, and I think that's really important these days because they can put themselves in another's shoes. And then also, I think that, I hope it's okay that I bring up, I think my mom would appreciate it if I brought it up that my aunt was a FACS teacher at Central in Minneapolis a long time ago. And she was a pioneer in incorporating cultural diversity studies in the FACS class. It was her idea to have, she had foreign exchange students all the time, and she wanted to incorporate them learning how to cook different foods. And so I think that there's just so much. And then the fact that I, studied, I have a degree in early childhood development, and that they teach, when I studied that, I thought, oh, and especially when I was a nanny and had kids, I thought every parent should take a child development class. And then, FACS does offer teaching child development and the responsibilities of having children, and I think that's crucial.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that, I appreciate the conversation around reading. I do. And I'm just going to reiterate again that I think that tech ed is important looking ahead in our future for our students in the same way we're looking ahead for reading is imperative for students to cook, to do anything. It's the basis for everything. I think FACS is that way too, and I can't disregard the benefits it has for EL students and for students with cognitive functions. But I mean, our world is going towards STEM, and that you can't disregard that. I think. I'm not saying that you guys are. I'm not saying you guys are ignorant to that. I know you guys are all fully aware of that. But, coming from a student's point of view, it is so crucial that we have some sort of computer background. And it's not required. None of these classes are required in high school. But I understand that tech ed is important to becoming the future leaders that you guys want us to be. We are here to become the future leaders. We are here to become the best of the best. That's why we're at Bloomington Public Schools. And how are we going to do that without computer literacy, without having any sort of background in coding, in any sort of technology? We are moving towards a technological age that is so much more techy than it even is now. I mean, the age that we're growing up in is so much different than the age you guys grew up in. And that's just the lens that we have to view this in. And in that way, I think that tech ed is extremely important.
Thank you. Director Steiger.
I'm going to add to that. As much as I value facts, and as you talked about taking them in high school and loving them, I credit probably the child development high school class for one of my daughters being a teacher now, because she really loved doing the reading buddies or whatever they did back then. But I also, as I look at this and I look at the future, I know that there's electives in high school where they could do those classes. And I'm also, have a degree, my degree's in child development also. And I believe that some of those conversations that they're having around child development and even the money management really are more suited. A high school kid is much more interested than those things as when they can take it as an elective than a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old in budgets and balancing checkbooks and stuff. So I do see the point that as FACS is important, I think that FACS in high school and having those options, they can meet a lot of those things there. I also think that there's, just like we talked about, doing the bots in the after-school program, a lot of cooking, et cetera, things can be done in after-school programs too, those types of activities. So I do really think that we really have to consider, I realize that maybe we did not get as much letters about tech ed, but I don't think that that means that we should not heavily consider that that is what our students need for their careers and not about what we enjoyed when we were in school or what our children enjoyed and those benefits, but we have to think about the future students and what their jobs and what the jobs of the world are going to be in the next 5 and 10 and 15 years and look to the future. So I just want us to make sure that we consider that heavily because we can't make any choices based on the number of letters we got. That's absolutely not, I mean, to me, that's like, making a choice on who had more friends to send a letter. That's absolutely not it. The choice is on what's best for as many students as we can do. So I just want us to heavily consider that as we talk about this.
I'd also like to add to what Dr. Seidoff was saying. I've actually had a friend texting me throughout this meeting about their opinions. They're watching it right now. And they said that pretty much exactly what Dr. Steigoff said, that FACS is so important, but I don't remember how to balance my checkbook because I did not have a checkbook when I was in middle school. I still don't have a checkbook. I don't remember a lot of those things because I didn't need to use them. I mean, yes, I know how to hold a knife properly and I know how to make a butter braid really well. But those are things that I can also learn in high school and they would be way more pertinent to me. And I maybe then would remember how to do those things because I need to start doing those things now. And so now I would have to take my personal finance class in high school because, I'm a senior and I need to go to college next year and I need to know how to do those things for myself. So I have to take that anyways because, I mean, maybe I just wasn't paying attention as well as I should have been. Maybe that might have been the case. But I think for the majority of students and for me and for my peers, FACS is important, yes, but the things that we're learning, the important things that we're learning, like budgeting and child development, that, I was gonna say childbirth, child development.
8th grade health.
Like, I remember that one. The video scared me a lot. But I think that the development and all that stuff, if I were to, when I need it most, is in high school, and that's when I can get that material work. And I think that, I'm still big on tech ed because we need that, and we also need to learn how to do all that stuff with our budgeting and finances. But how much, we're learning it in middle school, but we can also learn it in high school. But we need a basis, we need a foundation of technological sciences.
Thank you. Director Beebe.
Just another thing that kind of came to my mind is, with these options, which of these best fit students with any type of learning disability, any type of, significant disability, physically or developmentally or cognitively, where would they fit best? I think it's important to have one elective that will fit those students and they can have success. I don't know about the tech ed classes and how, you know, a student with a disability, someone like DCD student, would fit into a tech ed class. Because I don't know enough about it. And the other thing is, we talk about the need for social emotional learning. We have a lot of students who don't come from families that even sit down at a table to eat once a week. And they can learn what that's like by even just sitting with their peers together and preparing something, sitting down, having a plate in front of you, not just sitting in front of a TV and eating. I think there's some social emotional learning that can take place in those FACS classes. And I just heard today an advertisement for learning better people skills, and it sounded basically like a social emotional learning class for people in the workforce because they haven't learned those things. And I think it would be important to see that that is a benefit of a FACS class. Maybe that happens in tech ed. I haven't been in a tech ed class. I don't know what it looks like. Maybe you could answer some of those questions.
So I was a tech ed teacher
Uh-huh.
for about 10 years. I can speak from my experience with some of the things you're talking about. So when I was a tech ed teacher, I did have students with cognitive disabilities in my classroom. Now, they, just like where, you know, the other classes they went to, they had paraprofessional support. But with the paraprofessional support, they were very easily able to integrate into what we were doing. So it is, you know, if the question is, can we integrate students, you know, with cognitive disabilities into the technology education classrooms, my experience would say yes, probably as easily as we can into other classrooms, given the support that comes with it.
And the other thing I would say is, you know, with tech ed and computer science, those courses aren't just about technology. They're about design thinking. They're about problem solving. They're about the engineering process, working together and collaboratively together to solve problems, whatever those problems might be, whether it's a technological problem, like with a computer, or if it's other types of problems in their design thinking process. So while the name suggests that it's technology and computers, there are other, it's not just about physical technology, physical computer, iPad, things like that, apps. It's much more about the design thinking process. And Project Lead the Way is the model that we use for the tech ed classes.
Director Bennett.
Yeah, so, this is difficult because every time I think I have my mind made up, someone will make a good point and makes me change my mind. And I think, you know, as Director Starks was saying, that these are all good classes and they all have value and we don't want to get rid of any of them. And that's the choice that we've been tasked with, and not choosing, I think, would be a dereliction of duty. I think we kind of have to, I mean, we wanted these seats, we have to do it. And we bring to the table our experiences, and we all look at these things through different lenses as a parent or as a taxpayer or as an educator. And when I'm looking at it through the lens of a special education teacher, we're always looking for places to mainstream our kids where they can be successful. And of these four, by far, that is FACS. You know, I was in a FACS classroom on Friday, and they were all up, they were all engaged, they were all working on their projects, and I'm sure there are kids on IEPs in there. I wouldn't have any idea, because they're all engaged, they were all working. And I think that's something that we need to be mindful of opportunities for inclusion for our special needs kids. So, you know, that's kind of why I'm in the boat of we need to save FACS and we need to save tech ed. I think just from the comments you guys have made, those are the two that we have to save. I look at reading as a lot of the same way as world language, that if it's only going to be on the quarter model, how beneficial is that going to be? It's something that needs to be taught every day, and if we can't have that opportunity to where it's on the team model, to where it's, on every A day or something, and it's only one quarter a year, I think that we're not getting the benefits that we would like to see if it were every day. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at, tech ed and facts.
I agree too. I think there could be other opportunities for reading within the curriculum that we already provide. I'd see more opportunities for continuing to work with our students in helping them develop those skills. Not an option that I want to take away. Obviously, it's not what I would like for our kids. I would like them to be able to continue to have those kind of opportunities. But while there are some students that find a lot of benefit in the reading class, there are also other students that maybe don't need it, but we're requiring everybody to take it, to be part of it. So it's another thing that adds to the difficulty of this decision. Same as the world languages, if we could offer it to a group number of students so that they can then take into their higher levels later on in high school, then that would be a lot easier to decide. I definitely lean towards facts because I think it gives once again, provides those type of opportunities for more variety of students and starting at a very early age, where maybe those type of skills are easier to develop or needed to develop rather than waiting until they get into high school. And the same goes for tech ed, I think those are skills that the kids are gonna need, that if we don't provide, they might end up being a little bit behind at the other peers once they join the workforce or try to apply for jobs. And I wouldn't want that to happen. World languages, any other languages, the type of things that can come with time. I should put myself as an example, but I learned my second language when I was 18. That's when I started learning. So there is an opportunity in life to start learning that second language. I worry that if we have our kids taking a language every other day for only one quarter, that when they are in the workforce, they're hardly gonna remember any of that they learned in the middle school. And maybe there will be a bigger impact at the high school. Once again, that being said, I still worry about not being able to access those for some of our students, a very limited number of students to not be able to have access to higher levels like the AP or Spanish 5. But once again, this is something that is happening only in one of the schools. And languages is something that we should all be able to have access to. I have always been a friend of learning a foreign language, a second language, and of the immersion programs. I like the idea of the immersion programs. That's something that the district talked about several years ago, 10 years ago when that study was done. Opportunities for all students, including our Spanish-speaking kids, for example, that could greatly benefit from higher levels of world language. They don't benefit from a level 2 or from a level 1. So, okay, anybody else?
Should we start going through the process of eliminating this? Should we just go down the list and
one by one?
one by one,
of
to
the
start with
classes?
reading, and you can just ask.
Sure, would you like to make that?
Well, I'm not making a
Or
motion, I'm
anybody
trying to
else,
whittle
or
it down.
Just go with them?
Doesn't
Director Sorn.
middle school choices have that mapped out for us? Of the two, you pick any of the two.
No, we have to amend the motion with the
We
two
can
that we want to
amend,
eliminate.
With the
Yeah.
choice 1 or 2 or
It
3.
shows the two,
They're,
the three different choices of the
those are
two
just
each.
examples, those aren't actual.
Of dropping world language as a given, and I don't know if
By
that's
dropping
always.
two, you're saving the other two.
Yeah, we don't necessarily need to follow those options that are presented there, but we can make an amendment to the resolution that we already have, including the 2 languages that we would like to continue. That would be one way. Am I right?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how you're gonna do this.
Any suggestions?
You might wanna go, it's just a suggestion, you might wanna go around, everybody give their 2 recommendations and drop the lowest one and let those people vote for the next one and maybe. Informally, before you make an amendment.
Before we make amendments. Yeah.
We'll be making amendments all night if we.
Hey, then I guess we gotta.
That's what I was thinking.
take
Or maybe we
note.
can pick, like, start with one that we'd all agree to drop, and then work from there from the other 3. Does that work?
That
Or
works
not?
too.
No?
That works too.
Since
Yeah.
this is an informal vote, do me and Shantae
No.
get to take?
Same right, sorry.
It's
It's a nice try.
Sorry. Yeah, Director Starks.
So just before we get to this informal process, I mentioned it before, but I just want to reiterate to my fellow board members, I am going to abstain from all of these votes, because I just feel like the conversation that I've heard, as great as it's been, I've really appreciated everybody's impact and suggestions. I've heard a lot of I feel, I believe, I think, and I make decisions of this magnitude in this situation based on best practice says, our community has asked for, and I haven't heard enough of that for me to make a decision, so I'm going to abstain from all of the coming votes.
What
Go ahead.
other information would you need to make this vote? I mean, is it more time? Is it more
Yeah.
exploration?
Yes, and please don't hate me for saying yes, because I know you've gone through, I want to respect the professionals at the table, that you've gone through this, you've gone through a lot of iterations on all of this, so please don't take what I'm saying as disrespect for the work that you've done. The first time I saw this was last Monday. And so I've had a week to kind of formulate my questions, and last week was the first week that I met all the cabinet members behind me. So I'm just now understanding how our district works, and so I just feel like I just made a promise to myself I wouldn't vote tonight on any of these things if I didn't feel confident that I could support that vote, and I can't. And so, yes, I mean, one of them would be community input, which I think we're well beyond the time frame that that's even possible. But without that, I just can't, if I can't vote, if I can't defend my vote later, and that's where I'm at right now.
Middle school principals, what would happen if none of those pass? Let's suppose none of those pass, that they all fail.
We table it.
Where would you go to find for other ways to cover those cuts?
I think we've brought a number of options. We've been asked to bring back options after you didn't like it, and we've brought back a number of options, and this is where we're at. And so this is the decision that needs to be made.
Right, the reason I'm
Show the next
asking you
slide.
is, the reason I'm asking you is to once again provide this type of information.
Perhaps this one?
I don't have that.
We had it up there before.
Yeah, there was
The one
one
that shows
before.
which two are being, there.
There we go.
That one.
Right, but we came to those choices for a reason. So, yeah, I'm just trying to provide information again to kind of remind people why we got to this point and what would be the consequences of us abstaining or not deciding on any of those. No, we will, if we table it, yeah. In which position would you be left if we table this tonight?
We would not
make
meet
the-
the right sizing the
Yeah.
budget projections that we were given.
So you would have to go find somewhere else?
We would need time to go back and determine where we could make cuts.
And where do you think you will have to determine those cuts at this point?
At this,
Well, we have to cut courses to meet the target, to right size the budget. So if not, then the middle school is held harmless, and we don't make the roughly $700,000 in cuts required. But we have to adjust the schedule to make the cuts fit within the budget. So we need to have a decision on courses so we can put the schedule together to start the staffing process, to give people ample notification in terms of their job and their position moving forward.
Right, so we're making those decisions
Correct.
because we need to meet those budget requirements.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that once again, pass this type of information to the people that are watching us and the
Yes.
people who are present with us today. I think we all understand that, but just as an extra.
And without placing a value, we've put it down to, this is what's required, these are the non-required courses.
Right.
And that's how we've come to the table with these 4 courses, is we do not value one over the other, just as I've heard lots of discussion here tonight. But the fact is, on the left-hand side is what's required, and on the right-hand side is not required. And therefore, that's where our cuts are coming from.
Right, and you presented some options at the beginning, and the board requested different option, and we really appreciate the fact that you went back and then looked for some more and then brought a different option. So thank you for doing that. Director Mayor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, earlier we postponed part of the cuts, with the middle school athletics, because that's a decision that we felt didn't need to be made tonight. Is this one of those same things? Could we have more conversation, get some community input, and come back to this in another month? Or is it something that really needs to be done now?
We can't get through the staffing requirements if the cuts aren't made tonight.
Okay.
So if the cuts aren't made tonight on this area, it'd either, you'd be looking at, this was about 700,000, you'd be looking at an additional 1.4 the next time. And then you'd also have to change your board policy, because you'd be below board policy.
Okay. So this isn't one of those things that we can delay for a couple weeks or a month. We really have to do it.
We really
Now.
have to do it now.
Madam Chair, I'm
Director Sorm.
confused. Why can't we use this document that we were received with, has those 4 on there, and then it shows save 2, drop 2. It's easy enough to read, and you just make your choices because it offers whatever options everybody's been talking about.
I don't care.
The only thing
reason
is that.
that has world language as a given.
Exactly, that word languages is in all of them, and not everybody is pro letting go of word languages, so that leaves us with our own options. Director Olson.
What would be our own options for not required?
Go back to that.
But what if we wanted to keep like world language and reading? That's not on here.
Sure it is.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not. No, it's not.
It has drop world language on all of them.
It's not.
This is just
We've got
a
one more
sample.
blank. We
Well-
didn't need one more blank in there.
Yeah.
No,
but-
we'd need 4, like,
But
a lot
that's
more
the
blanks.
reason why we talked about having an informal vote of which ones we think we would be picking, which ones of the 4, which 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have made my own matrix up.
We'll help you through the process, don't worry.
Yeah, it is after 10 o'clock. This is way late.
Yes.
It's
Past
no,
my
no
bedtime.
good decisions are
Getting
made
there.
after
No,
10
I
o'clock.
know.
Right.
Hope you're
You're
taking
right.
nap today.
I'd like
Okay,
to mention-
Director Olson.
Well, I have 2 children who went through middle school, and I asked them their opinions, and they couldn't even give it to me, even though, my daughter has a minor in Spanish, and my son's an engineer, and even they know and said that each of these classes is beneficial, to other students. So I wish we'd had more time to do a survey of all the high school kids who went through middle school and do a monkey survey or whatever and have them pick. That would have been really nice.
That can be a little tricky too, because all students have different types of opinions and preferences, so you might end up with.
Well, yeah, which kind of goes to, they say that on the school board, we're supposed to make a decision that is equitable across the district for all students, right? And it kind of feels like choosing these is not equitable because different students
Yep.
Could we
want
just
and
try-
benefit from different classes.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
definitely. Okay, so should we go ahead then and, Beth, you wanted to say something?
I just feel like we're going in circles, and I think we kind of need to just
Literally
stop.
agreed.
Let's just start taking some votes and find out where we're at.
Yeah, let's go there. So let's just start going with, maybe start with you, Director Olson. You don't want to start that way? Or your
What are
two-
we saying, the 2 that we
The 2 that
want?
we keep, the 2 that you prefer to keep,
I don't want
your options.
you.
Director Starks, would you like to start? The other end?
I'm abstaining.
Oh, you're abstaining? Okay, Director Steiger.
So, let me clarify the way I understand we're doing this.
Pick your 2.
No, so we're going through, it doesn't mean, I want to make sure everybody understands this, this does not mean this is your final vote. We're just trying to eliminate it down.
To get a feeling of
So,
what
yeah,
the-
so that you so when it comes to you, it's not your final vote, okay, or whoever. So I am going to say, am I supposed to say what I want to keep or eliminate?
Keep.
Keep. I will keep reading and tech ed.
Okay. So next is me. I'm going with facts and tech ed.
Facts and tech ed.
Hold on.
I'm facts and reading.
What was yours?
Facts and reading.
Okay. I'm going with facts and reading.
I'm also going with facts and reading.
Facts and reading?
Okay, so we agree on facts, and we're split on reading and tech ed.
You've got 4 and 5.
Oh, I knew the language was going to be.
I'd just like to reiterate that me and Shante are the closest to community feedback you can get right now.
Yeah.
The audience,
Yeah,
like
but you're
yelling
young.
at you.
So why am I on the board, Jim?
Because you're the school representative.
Because I'm on the school, I'm representing the schools, Jim. That's why I'm here. They're all young. You're making decisions for the young. You're making decisions for me and for my generation of students.
I'm not making any decisions for you because you would just negate whatever I suggest anyhow. I know.
Okay, let's,
Keep it civil here.
okay, let's come back, please.
Serious.
All right, let's go back.
Jim,
This is,
calm
remember, this
down.
is a formal meeting. I need to use this. Okay, so what the numbers are saying right now is we got 5 people in favor of keeping facts, 4 people in favor of keeping reading, 3 people in favor of keeping tech ed, and nobody in favor of keeping world languages. Okay, so should we go ahead and go with the two at the top? Facts and reading, or what do board members think?
Say that again, I didn't understand what you said.
Okay, so I'll read again.
No, I got that.
Oh, you got
It's just
that.
your question, what we're going to do next.
Do you want to go for the 2 higher numbers, the 2 classes with the higher numbers of preference, which is facts and reading? Or do you want to do it in a different way? I do need help in this one.
So,
World languages is not there anymore.
When I counted, I actually got 6 people for facts, and 3 people for tech ed, and 3 people for reading, because otherwise we'd have 7 votes.
1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5.
I have five.
Yeah,
Because,
5, 4, and
yeah,
3.
there's what, we have 1 person abstaining. Yeah. and-
all right, so if you said reading, put your hand up so we can recount. Who said reading? 4.
1, 2, 3, reading. Yeah, I have 4.
Oh, that Maya had her hand up?
Yeah,
I
okay,
see
her
it.
hand up too.
Okay. I have 4
So
for
if you
reading.
said tech ed, put your hand up. 3.
3, which is what I have.
Okay. So it's going to be between those 2, isn't
So
it?
really, you're back to choice 1, choice 2, and choice 3.
Jim was right.
Just pointing that out there.
Jim was right.
Jim, you were
You
right.
got what you wanted, Director Sora.
Oh, we had to whittle down first.
Well, maybe somebody who's abstaining can vote now.
Those are those are 2 that we're saving then? We're saving for the facts and
What about
reading?
facts? Because facts was 5 people. That's what I had.
Number 1.
We can vote between these
Yeah,
2.
facts is number 1, so option 1, no, number 1, that's not an option anymore.
Well, you have a
And
board,
then we're going for either reading or tech ed.
That's why I wanted to do them one by one, eliminate one.
do
and then
have
the
a
next
board
one.
majority for both facts and reading.
Yes, we do.
So,
Yeah,
Madam
facts
Chair,
and reading, that's what it shows, the
Madam Chair.
majority of
can I
votes.
go ahead and amend the motion?
Yeah, should we do
Okay.
that?
Yes, I move that we amend the motion to change it to where it would read, approve the elimination of world language and computer ed, computer science. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Second?
Is there not?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so all those in
Oh, wait, do we need
favor?
any, wait.
Oh,
That's fine.
any more discussion on that one?
It's too late. I don't have to discuss, I know what I'm gonna do.
That's about all I can say.
You can leave.
No, I'm here till the bitter end. I'm biting the bullet. Let's get moving.
Okay,
Director Beebe?
Yeah, I think this is a good resolution, because what are we trying to do? We're trying to eliminate 2 courses, and so the resolution should read, you know, as Tom stated, and I think we need to just vote.
So
Be
we're
a,
ready,
Are we going to vote? Person by
Here we go.
person vote.
We're gonna vote.
We ready?
ready to
Who's going
vote.
first?
Looks like.
I'll
Okay,
go first.
okay.
We're doing roll call, or?
Sure, sure.
No.
This is to eliminate, right, those 2
This
courses?
is to eliminate.
Eliminate.
This, well, this is for the motion, the
Amendment.
amendment. So we're voting on the amendment.
Oh,
We haven't voted on the amendment yet, have we? So we're voting on the amendment.
to amend
All right.
the resolution.
All right, I'll vote yes,
eliminate.
sorry, my bad. I will vote yes on the amendment.
Okay.
So we can vote
Oh,
on
for
it.
the amendment, yes.
Yeah.
We gotta
Yes.
start doing them to get
Yes.
them through.
Yes.
Yes.
And anybody opposed to that?
Well, it already passed,
Okay,
so now we have to
Already
vote.
passed, everybody is, okay, so we have approved the amendment to the resolution, and now we're gonna vote on
The resolution as
Resolution
amended.
itself.
Okay, could somebody read the resolution as it is with the amendment?
I'll go ahead and restate it. Be
Okay.
resolved, the School of Independent School District 271 approves the elimination of world language
languages.
and tech ed computer sciences from the middle school, right-sizing the budget 2020-2021. That sound right?
Sounds right.
Okay.
Any seconds?
Second.
2 seconds, right in a second, we just need to vote on it.
Okay. All those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying
No,
aye.
I think it needs to be person by person, doesn't it?
Well,
Roll
it's
call,
however she
this
wants to do
point?
it.
Well, it does because you have an abstention, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
because we have somebody abstaining, we have to do roll call. Okay, so we'll do roll call. Start with Director Olson.
Am I just saying yes or aye?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a yes or no?
Yes.
Aye.
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 No.
Okay, so it
It's
seems like
reading
it
and
passes.
I tried for
It's been approved.
We're very enthusiastic.
Okay,
about
next,
reading.
we're gonna move into board member reports.
Not reading.
Next item in the agenda. Thank you, all of you, for sitting here with us.
Thank you for staying, yeah.
There you go. What you want to stick?
I'll go first so we can keep it moving.
Okay, Director Beebe, go ahead.
Before the break, I had an opportunity to visit the Pond Early Childhood Center, and they have been working on a totally new program. They've been, first of all, working on getting more students screened, and they've been putting their literature in in 3 different languages, Spanish and Somali and English. They are reaching more people in the community to screen the children, and they're getting more slots filled with their Early Learners Academy, and just at registration for the Early Learners Academy, and there are so many children that people are wanting to get into the program that they're telling them they have to be doing it very quickly, starting when it opens, the very day that it opens. And a family has a set of twins, and so they're wondering, how are we going to get them in the same class? They even suggested parents do it at the same time on different computers. That's how in demand these classes are, and I think it's very exciting, and that they are able to help prepare our kids our students to be able to be ready for kindergarten and get the foundation that they need laid. So that was really exciting to me. They also have found a way to reach parents. They were having a really hard time getting a parent, early childhood parent committee together. And now they're having success by doing it during one of the class times or right after the class time. So those are all things that are changing and growing. And it's fun to see it because it's been a process. And Gina Miller and her team are to be commended for the great work they're doing. And I encourage you to stop by there. I've been busy in other things too, but I think that's the biggest thing. Today I was able to read at an Early Learners Academy and enjoyed that. Also found it excellent to be at the AMSD directors meeting and hearing the speakers. And one of the big issues that they brought up was vaping. And I think that's something that it would be good for us to look at. We received some information and a presentation, and it is becoming a very serious problem with serious health conditions being promoted now also in conjunction with influenced by the tobacco industry. So we need to protect our students, and it's something that we can do more on.
Okay, thank you. Director
Yes,
Manning.
Madam Chair, but being that it's like 10:25, can we like forego board member reports until the next meeting, please?
Yes.
Chair
would
discretion?
Everybody really in agreement with that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then let's move into superintendent report.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so
Thank
we
you.
need motions from the board to cancel the March 23rd school board meeting due to spring break. Have a
So moved.
motion.
Second. Okay, then it passes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We
Any
need a
opposed?
motion to move the April 13th school board meeting to April 6th due to the Senior Achievement Recognition Banquet scheduled for April 13th.
So moved.
Any second? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it passes.
Okay, we need a third motion to establish a closed session of the school board upon conclusion of the January 27th school board meeting for the purpose of negotiations, discussions.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Chantal?
it's kind of sad because the people I wanted to really talk to all kind of left. But I want to, for those who are still watching, hopefully, I know I didn't really say much as my counterpart, Ally, did. I know this is a really hard decision to make tonight, and I'm glad we asked as many questions, no matter how many times we have to ask again. I'm glad we did it. I may not be pleased with some of the outcomes, but that's just life. I appreciate you guys, the work you guys do, but I also want to give a shout out to a lot of the students that you saw in the audience. That was actually some of our BSAC members who were driven enough to show you guys that yes, we do care. I know there's some students that are actually watching, and I want to thank the community for showing that this does affect them, because, hello, that's what we're all here for, is the students. So again, thank you for the time and the opportunity for me and Ally to be here and speak up for our schools and our students and our families. And I know my job is to talk for the students, but I'm out there every day talking to my teachers, because I value them and the work they do and the education they give me. So I just wanted to take this time and say that really quickly. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Would somebody like to move the adjournment of the
Move to adjourn.
meeting?
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.